Hi everyone, I hope you're doing really well. Bit of a late night live, just to give some of the evidence that I've found. Just going to give it a minute for the numbers to go up whilst I look at where my screenshots are, just so I know what I'm going to be saying. What I'm finding is just absolutely blowing my mind, and I think it's important that I speak about what I've found today and yesterday as well, and how it links into the earthquakes and the collider technology. Now, there is 100% now huge connections being made to satanic elements in our system, which I knew there was already connections there, but what I'm finding now is absolutely massive in relation to all of this. So we've obviously got a very sinister group of individuals running our world now, as we all can see from what's going on. And unfortunately, you know, they're linked into the religious establishments as well, you know, particularly Christianity, but all religious faith groups appear to be infiltrated by this very sinister potential agenda. Anyway, I'm just going to read you the evidence rather than, you know, try and say things that I can't remember or whatever. So I'm just going to go through it now. And there's a lot. I'm struggling to keep on top of the amount of evidence I've got, if I'm being honest with you. I've got so much now. It's really difficult to know what it's a priority that I actually get out to you and what I tell you about and what I put off. So I'm just doing the latest evidence at the moment. But it's just overwhelming what I'm finding. It's just absolutely. I've got so much evidence. I'll be here for hours telling you everything, to be honest with you. So we're living under a criminal system. This is a fact. Completely criminal. The whole system you're living under is a complete criminal financial system, everybody. It's facilitating the ability to exploit and victimize most of humanity by a very small number of people. Okay, and it is completely criminal, and it's, as I've said, there's certainly a massive satanic element in all of this. Now, I've known that there's been evidence linking into the colliders for a very long time, and I've known, or for quite a few months, and I've known that it is converging on the Vatican, and there's a lot of German links into all of this. So this is one of the things that's prompted me to do a little bit more research today in relation to the Democratic German Republic. I think it is GDR, Democratic German Republic. Yeah, pretty sure it's GDP. Sorry, hold on, GDR. Sorry. And I'd already identified that organization is linked to what they're telling us is multiple assassinations, tying in with going back to an organization called Treuhand or Treuhand, I don't know how you pronounce it, TREU Hand. So it's almost like true, but they've swapped the E and the U. And this links straight into Sony, which becomes very, very important, because then that ties in with the corruption surrounding the music industry, particularly Michael Jackson, George Michael, and some others in relation to Sony. And Sony, I'd already identified, connects straight to the Klaus Schwab via the company South Records, and Klaus Schwab was the chair of the World Economic Forum. And through Klaus Schwab, he's also linked into the earthquake evidence and into the collider technology. But anyway, let me just focus on what I'm going to tell you, and then I know I'm just telling you exactly as it is, and I'm not getting anything wrong. I'm just going to make sure that you know, it's as I've taken it. So I've done more research around the collider technology now, and on searching what was the experiment at CERN in 2008, the following information was revealed. On September the 10th, 2008, the Large Hadron Collider at CERN successfully steered its first proton beams around the 27-kilometer ring, marking the start of its operations. This was the first time it had been activated, 10th of September 2008. The primary goal was to begin commissioning the machine for high-energy particle collisions to study the fundamental laws of physics, including searching for the Higgs boson and dark matter, so they claim. Key 2008 LHC events, which is the Large Hadron Collider, As I've said, 10th of September 2008, first beam. The first beam was successfully steered, a major milestone in experiment. On 9 days later, it claimed from this initial bit of information, there was an incident. Okay, on September the 19th, 2008, just 9 days afterwards. And there was a faulty electrical connection causing a magnetic quench and helium leak, damaging a sector of the accelerator and requiring extensive repairs. Now, this is what they are putting down. It could be deception. I'm just telling you what the information is saying. Okay, so they're claiming there was a fault 9 days after the activation of the Large Hadron Collider first happened. On the setup, the main detectors, including Atlas and CMS, were in place to detect particles producing collisions. Now, if you go and research CERN CMS, you'll see that on their website, they claim that CMS has the power to create magnetic fields 100,000 times more powerful than the entire Earth's magnetic field. That's what they're telling us, everybody. Now, CMS companies connect to Donald Trump. They connect to Jimmy Savile. Like, you're talking really, really quickly. All of these people I'm telling you about. Princess Anne, Prince Andrew, Prince, who's the other one? Princess Eugenie, Prince Philip, when he was still around, it linked to him on the Company's House records, to the main Freemason Lodge. And then from there, you find connections actually to CERN, other connections as well, and to earthquake companies. They tried to, I say hide, but they allowed me to still find it through going through the records and looking into the filing history. So we had an actual Italian earthquake company tied into it, which linked to the Albert Pike letter written to Mazzini, okay, which was a letter written, according to the information, in 1871, setting out the Three World War deception to bring about the light of Lucifer on Earth. That's what the wording says within that particular document. If it's genuine, it looks as though it is, because all of my evidence through the Company's House records is supporting it. There's an actual Mazzini Garibaldi document, company that I've found that was hidden, sort of hidden through the filing history, that then linked to Madeleine McCann. Okay, and the evidence that I've acquired that Madeleine McCann's skin was being worn in the shoes of Prince Harry around the time of Jeffrey Epstein's arrest. Anyway, so if you go and search CMS, CERN, you will see on their website 100,000 times more powerful than the magnetic Earth, so the magnetic fields of the Earth. So straight away, they're telling us they have the technology to do something pretty serious on this Earth. Why would you even have that technology? It just doesn't make sense unless you have potentially sinister plans in all of this. Now, so we have this incident. Following the 2008 incident, the machine was repaired and then restarted according to the research in 2009. A summary of the websites start to explain the faults on their summaries, but one article had been removed and the other one appears to have been removed the fault from within it, even though it came up with the fault on the summary. Clicked on the links. One of them, it removed the fault completely from the website, and the other one, as I said, one article had been removed completely, and the other one appears to have removed the fault. So they're trying to hide, it seems, information I might be able to find to support their sinister agenda. I'm going to try and keep an eye on the comments, actually. Let me just put this, try it, do my best to keep an eye on the comments. Hi Gary, been listening to your videos while driving to Adelaide for my son's little athletics. Been good to catch up with the videos. Oh, great, thanks very much. I hope you're okay, and I hope your boy's okay as well, the charger. Are you stocking up on toilet paper for round 2? Are there any veteran charities inextricably linked with... Yes, there's loads of them. I'm very sorry to say the military are massively implicated in this. I actually think this is why a lot of them are unaliving themselves, or I say a lot of them. I think a lot of them are psychologically affected by the satanic cult element within the criminal system, and have potentially been doing things that they didn't either know they were doing or did, but they were being controlled or manipulated through the satanic element of this. I actually think that the military is a massive Well, we know it's a massive part of the deception against humanity. The wars are not what we're led to believe at all. The conflicts, it's all linking into the satanic cults now, and the ability to launder the money. Why is my bag coming? The ability to launder money through those conflicts in relation to the crimes against children, and actually target those children through those conflicts for the blood, which is such a huge element in all this. This is all linking back into the blood, and how the blood sacrifice and the drinking of the blood, I'm sorry to say, ties in with this international government fraud and the satanic cults behind our whole system. And this is, this starts to sort of open up the, not understanding, because none of us will fully understand why these people are doing this, but it helps us to create theories around the falsified prophecies and why the children potentially link in with that, and the blood, and how it's linking in with the scripture and everything like that, how it links in with me, and how this is all really being connected now. Oh, I can't get that. Hold on, I'm trying to get the. Hold on, where can I put that? I'm trying to get my phone a little bit more suitable. That's better. If I can keep that there. That's better. Sort of. Hold on. Yeah, so there's definite veteran companies linked into this. In fact, some of them are at key areas of the fraud, linking in with the blood of the children, I'm sorry to say. Now, I'm not saying all veterans are going to be involved in the crimes against the children, but it's becoming more and more relevant in all of this. Now, I was obviously hoping that this was a small number of people in relation to the very serious crimes against the children. It's starting to look like it's bigger than what I was hoping. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to carry on with the evidence, but there's a bit, if you haven't looked at it, look at the satanic panic. It's like almost comical, isn't it? But it's not. If you look at the satanic panic, there was an investigation in relation to a school in America in the 1980s where over 300 children were all claiming in this school that they had all been sexually abused. Now, that could be a deception, them giving us that information. Now, it was all covered up, but the evidence I'm finding from that case cannot be ignored. How it links into the internet, it links into the Companies House records, tying back into the Hampstead child abuse inquiry, to Jimmy Savile, to the Vatican, and to the Colliders. So I can't ignore it. At the moment, I've got to say, I'm sorry, it looks like they have been abusing and actually harming many, many children around the world for a very long time. That was one school, over 300 pupils saying the same thing, and it got covered up. It was one of the biggest financial investigations in America ever. Go and look at it, Satanic Panic, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And I'm going to go into, if I have chance, a little bit of the research. There's loads I've done around that, and like I've said, I can't ignore it. It's huge. It's huge. This isn't just another story, it is the end game. Yeah, absolutely, we are coming to the end of something massive here. Now, it looks as though, from what I'm going to be talking about tonight, and I'm still building on the evidence, so it's not finished yet, it looks as though they are actually moving towards a tribulation event on Earth using the collider technology. I'm going to be talking about the 2004 tsunami caused by an earthquake off the coast of, was it Thailand? I think I've got it written down. Anyway, let me crack on with the evidence, and then it's best that I just actually read it, so I'm making sure I'm getting it right. Anyway, we had this technical issue, but it looks as though they're trying to hide information about that technical issue as they're realizing I'm getting all of this evidence. Now, remember, my dream had links straight into the control panel of the Large Hadron Collider. So this is now supporting that something, I believe, was planned in relation to that technology for it to go wrong and something to happen with it. I do believe it was deliberate. Or the whole thing is a deception because of who I am, but at the moment, or who I may be, but at the moment, I don't know that. So anyway, a summary came up, but it would not, one was blocked, the actual article, the other one had removed the fault. A separate search reveals that on the same day as the fault, okay, so on the 19th of September 2008, yeah, Professor Stephen Hawkins unveiled and revealed the Corpus clock, which it says is a terrifying new way to read the time, at Corpus Christi College, Cambridge, England. The exact same day. Now, I'd already identified that Stephen Hawking is massively linked into CERN. Okay, he was involved in a meeting with Jeffrey Epstein, which we're going to come to in a bit, and CERN scientists on the 19th of April 2012, which was less than 3 months before CERN claims to have discovered the Higgs boson, a God particle. And then here he is unveiling this clock on the exact same day that a fault occurred with the Large Hadron Collider in 2008. The Corpus clock, also known as the chronophage or the grasshopper clock, is a large sculptured clock on the outside of the Taylor Library at Corpus Christi College, University of Cambridge, England. It is at street level at the junction of Bennett Street and Trumpington Street, looking out over King's Parade, Cambridge. The clock was conceived and funded by John Taylor, an alumnus and honourable fellow of the college. It was officially unveiled to the public on the 19th of September 2008 by Cambridge physicist Stephen Hawking. The clock was named one of Time's best innovations of 2008. Now, Stephen Hawking actually studied the expansion of the universe and black holes at that university. And he, when you go and research that, if you type in Stephen Hawking, go and look on Wikipedia, you'll see next to the thesis of the expansion of the universe, you have the year 1966. It doesn't explain why up next to it. Well, 1966 is the foundation of the Church of Satan. Stephen Hawking was trying to get, according to an article that I've got, CERN to create a black hole on Earth. He also came out in 1971 with the Hawking radiation theory in relation to black holes emitting radiation. Well, 1971, when he came out with that theory, after studying the black holes, is when the World Economic Forum began. And Klaus Schwab announced that he was stepping back as the chair of the World Economic Forum within 3 days of me sending my evidence to the World Economic Forum, the FBI, NATO, and other organizations. There was about 200 people or 200 organizations, with several people within some of those organizations. And that was in 2024. And that was with the latest evidence that I had at that point. And he announced he was stepping back. And then, of course, he then resigned on the same day that the Pope supposedly died, both 88 years old. This is then tying in with the prophecy of the popes, which talks about the end of time and the judgment upon humanity. And my favorite movie is Terminator 2, Judgment Day. What was I going to say about that? Yeah, I don't believe the Pope actually died. And the prophecy of the popes, the evidence that I've got, ties into the 3I Atlas comet, which was supposedly identified in July 2025, the exact same month that the other key events occurred as I was trying to expose the fraud. And from the 3I Atlas research, through a meeting that was held via the Galileo Project or Galileo Foundation, which links to the Galileo Project, which links to the 3I Atlas, Jeff Bezos was supposedly in a meeting in 2022 in October with the popes, and Jeff Bezos connects to a company straight away in Christchurch, which is where I was living and where my investigation relates to massively. And Christchurch, and a abbreviation of Christ, is X. Okay, double-crossed the deception of the crucifixion, and I believe the bloodline of Christ remained here on earth, according to all of my research. Anyway, getting back to this, because otherwise I'm just going to deviate and I'll be here forever. So, research shows that John Crawshaw Taylor, who was the guy that invented the clock, did I read the other bits? Yep. Was born in 1936, and he's an English inventor, entrepreneur, horologist, and philanthropist, best known for his extensive research into electric kettles. Corpus Christi Catholic Primary School had featured in the research of the Church of Satan and making major connections to Aleister Crowley, the Flemings, Exbourne Manor, where my investigation began, the Crays, a collaboration of international governments, and much more as shown elsewhere. So the reason I mention this is because that was called Corpus Christi Catholic Primary School that I'd identified a couple of days before, a few days maybe, before I found out about the Corpus clock, which is at the Christi element of Cambridge. You see, so this is all tying in. Now, Corpus Christi relates to the bloodline of Christ and ties in with the Last Supper, I believe, and the Euro Christ, which is the Holy Communion in relation to Christianity, drinking the blood of Christ and the body of Christ in the bread. The Feast of Corpus Christi, oh, here it is. This is what it says about it. In Latin, Dies Sanctis Corporis, is the day of the most holy body and blood of Jesus Christ the Lord, also known as the solemnity of the most holy body and blood of Christ, and is a liturgical solemnity, celebrating the real presence of Christ in the Euro Christ. The feast is observed by the Catholic Church in addition to certain Western Orthodox, Lutheran and Anglican churches. Now, the Lutheran side of this is quite interesting. The Lutheran connection that I found, which ties directly into the crimes against the children, okay, is basically says that what the prophecies say, or what the scripture says, is the absolute truth, and that is what's going to happen, and there is no deviation. That must happen. That's got to happen. Now, if that's been written falsely, you could have people who are Lutheran feel they've got to bring about the prophecies, i.e. a tribulation event, even if that scripture may have been implemented or put there by a satanic cult element in this as an inversion against creation and an attack against all of creation. So you have that connection to the Lutheran Church straight in, and that was coming in from the Dolphin House research, which links to members of royalty, politicians, linking into this particular area, which links to Jimmy Savile, the crimes against children. And we're not just talking about sexual abuse is bad enough, but we're talking about the unaliving of children, how that ties in with Jersey and other key investigations around the United Kingdom, and I think elsewhere as well around the world. So that's how I identified the Lutheran connection, and the Lutheran side of things goes back to linking in with Freemasonry on quite a big scale. By me. The Feast of Corpus Christi was proposed by Thomas Aquinas, doctor of the church to one of the popes, in order to create a feast focused solely on the Holy Eurochrist, emphasizing the joy of the Eurochrist being the body and blood, soul and divinity of Jesus Christ. Just going to have a look at the comments. I'll try and keep an eye on them a little bit, but I don't want to, it's important I get the evidence out, because they'll be seeing this as well, and it's important that they know they're being exposed, and it also might get them thinking that they've also been deceived, you see, and it might get them to realize that what they're doing is not right, even though they've been thinking maybe it was, and just because the deception is so vast, everybody. And you're going to see, as I go through this, you're going to see some things that suggest that maybe they're realizing that what they're doing is wrong, and how my exposure is potentially making that big difference to change things. So, poor guys stuck in a loophole, Groundhog Day. Poor guys stuck in a loophole. I'm just going to get rid of that person. Knowing Latin, German, French, ancient Greek, Indian is very helpful. Omicron means in ancient Greek. Means O in ancient Greek, sorry. Omega means judgment day. Omega. Yeah, Alpha and Omega. Alpha is beginning, isn't it? And Omega is end. Can I come and do you a skin fade? I don't even know what skin fade is. Sorry. Go, why do you stream so late? Because I've been doing research all day, and it's the only time I can do it, unfortunately. It's the only time. I don't always do it this late, but I think this is very important to get it out. Someone's put they are biblical fallen angels. Well, look, the whole system they've got has gone against creation. So, you know, I think these people are very, very lost. I think they're very sad. I feel very sorry for them. I don't really think they know what to believe. I think they're trying to bring about the creator, but they're going about it in the in the wrong way. They're not thinking rationally. The drug trade is a massive part of what they're involved in. So that means they haven't got the clarity and the rationality to actually think carefully and make the right decisions in what they're doing. The drug trade is a massive part of all of this. Absolutely. Right, I'm going to carry on reading the evidence. Let me just have a little look at the last. The lyrics in David Bowie's Let's Dance tells a lot. Put on your red shoes and dance the groove. Yeah, absolutely. There is a patent for Hunter virus, someone's put. A company South Search shows that the creator of the Corpus clock, Taylor, had been appointed to a company called Strix UK Limited before 1992, which is when the Catholic Church became a legal entity and the company's house records became electronic or started to become electronic. And he resigned in November 1999, the same year as the re-establishment of the Church of Satan. The company had been incorporated in 1990. Its incorporation document shows Kent Secretaries Limited of Longfield, Kent, and page 4 shows various companies including Lawson Price Limited, Keith Price Limited, and importantly HC Holdings Southampton Limited. Okay, so this is the creator of the clock. Dominic Michael Anthony Orton connects Strix UK Limited to 9 companies including Mountaineering Companies, Cambridge Mechatronics Limited, the Flag Association Limited, and critically Siemens Metering Limited, a Siemens company that connects to many other Siemens companies via its directors, including Siemens PLC, which is the main company in the fraud, the main Siemens company, and to Plessis. And Plessis links to Tim Berners-Lee, the research of Tim Berners-Lee, who was the creator of the World Wide Web for CERN, who lived in Ferndown at the same time as, or in the same town as the Flemings that initiated my removal. And one of my wife's best friends, who worked for Siemens, also lived in the last couple of years, or 3 or 4 years ago at least, lived in Wimborne as well, works for Siemens. And Plessis links to, as I said, Tim Berners-Lee, and also to Madeleine McCann's mother almost immediately via my research. It connects to BAE Systems, to Thales, to German British Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and to Waterman Limited, which are all featured critically throughout the research. Now, the BAE Systems and Thales is very, very important. That links into the technology of CERN. So what I'm basically saying is straight away from the clock, you have a link to Madeleine McCann, you have a link to Siemens, which is a Nazi-connected organization, the Nazi deception. And that Siemens company also connects straight to Jeffrey Epstein via the Edge Foundation. You have a link to BAE Systems, Thales, Wattman, and a German Chamber of Commerce. Now, the Church of Satan was created after a night, it was named after a night of the I don't know what the word is, I haven't got it in front of me, but it's named after a Christian connection to a German knight in Germany. And it was created in 1966. Siemens is significant to the criminal network, as I've said, links to CERN, Stephen Hawking as well. Elon Musk immediately via the same name on the incorporation document, Stephen Hawkins. So that means this is all linking in with Elon Musk. Jeffrey Epstein, as I said, the Nazi regime, and much more as shown. So we've got this immediate connection. The Ninth Circle movie was released on the 15th of March 2008. And my dream led to that and to the control panel of the Large Hadron Collider and a technical problem being called the Ninth Circle, or Hell. Okay, so we have this HC Holdings on the incorporation document, in brackets Southampton, and it had been incorporated as DA Holdings Southampton Limited on the 28th of July 2010, 4 months before CERN Limited, the company was incorporated on Companies House, and that has dissolved since I exposed it in 2024. Its name was changed for the only time in May 2011 between the Christchurch earthquake, Christ X Church, okay, the bloodline of Christ symbol when you shorten it, and Jimmy Savile's death in May 2011. Between those two key dates, the earthquake was on the 22nd of February 2011. David Anthony Hobbs connects HC Holdings Southampton Limited to 11 companies, including History Bombs Limited and PC Holdings in brackets Southampton Limited, that had been incorporated on the 15th of March 2002 after the World Trade Center disaster. It has a registered address of CW Fellows Limited of Templars House, Lulworth Close, Chandler's Ford, Hampshire. This is the exact same address linked to HJ Holt Limited in my research, immediately to Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, as shown elsewhere in the document, and is critically in conjunction with this. Its filing history shows that on the 18th of March, its address was changed from Maritime Walk, Ocean Village, Southampton, making further links through my document to the research. So I'm just going to read that to you again, because there's a lot to take on, but this is very important. So via the company the company name that's on the incorporation document, linking to the designer of the clock, okay, in Southampton, which is where my investigation began in Dorset, but it's Deborah Fleming was the NHS chief executive for both of those areas and the Isle of Wight. It shows that it was incorporated as DA Holdings Southampton on the 28th of July 2010, 4 months before CERN Limited was incorporated, which CERN is the company that oversees the Large Hadron Collider. Before the name was changed for the only time in May 2011 between the Christchurch earthquake and Jimmy Savile's death. David Anthony Hobbs connects this company to 11 companies, including History Bombs Limited and PC Holdings in brackets Southampton Limited, that had been incorporated on the 15th of March 2002 after the World Trade Center disaster, as a registered address of CW Fellows Limited of Templars House, Lulworth. Templars, as in other words, Knights Templar. Now, I'm connected into the Knights Templar via the connection to my former school, to a Masonic building, and then several addresses that are all around where I was living in my life when I was a child. And there's a Waterman company that connects to that. And this is Lulworth Close in Chandler's Ford in Hampshire. So this is where Deborah Fleming had also been an NHS chief executive. And this is the exact same address that I'd linked from another area of research to a company called HJ Holt Limited, which connects immediately to Exbourne Manor Freehold in the research. That had actually been coming in from the Antarctic ice, what's it called, Centrino ice cube or whatever, the collider, or it's not generally a collider, but it's linked in with the research around the colliders in Antarctica. And when I came in from that research, it led to Julian Assange into the Doomsday Cult, which then linked it to Kent. And from Kent, there were connections to Exbourne Manor, 3.5 hours away. And that's where that HJ Holt Limited was, which links to, it looks like an alias name for Donald Trump on the record. And that ties to an address right near Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, which also links to Tommy Robinson, which also links from the Grenfell Tower fire and other key, from the Doomsday Clock as well. It linked to that exact same address near Exbourne Manor in Bournemouth. Its filing history shows that on the 18th of March, its address was changed from Maritime Walk, Ocean Village, Southampton, making further links throughout the document. Okay, and Ocean Walk is an address that was, or Ocean Village is an address that was linked to Steele Raymond's solicitors, which then connects to Mark Steele via the research, and coming in from the research of Sasha Stone, who is linked to the Blood of the Tortured Children, the Church of Satan, and to the Vatican again via my research. This was 3 days. This date change, this address change, 18th of March, was 3 days after the Ninth Circle movie was released in 2008, which links to my dream and the problem with the control panel. So I think what my dream was telling us, that the fault had already occurred, or not a fault, I think it was deliberate, but something had occurred with the machinery, or it, as I said, it was a setup as a deception to make me believe it, that there's a fault that's occurred. Hobbs, the same director, also connects to the International Printers Network Limited that had been incorporated in 2003 and had been a criminal company, had been incorporated with the same companies as Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, where my investigation began. Printing and photocopiers, remember that's a printing company, are relevant to various people in my life in Kent and to Tim Berners-Lee, the creator of the World Wide Web for CERN, in my life in Dorset. Hobbs also connects to Wessex Cardiac Arrest Trust that features elsewhere and links to the Satanic Temple United Kingdom, the intelligence agencies, and major areas of the criminal network and apparent crimes against children. And that was somebody that Donald Trump positioned as the head of the FBI. Kash Patel links into that. CW Fellows Limited, remember you had the registration address, CW Fellows, earlier, is shown in a former registered address, had been incorporated as DHB Fellows Limited on the 1st of February 2008. Okay, so this is 2 or 3 months before the Ninth Circle movie came out, which links to the control panel. On the 1st of February 2008, before its name was changed on the 5th of April 2008. So either side of the release of the Ninth Circle movie, which links into my dream and the control panel, as I said, as a registered address of Office D, Beresford House, Town Quay, Southampton, Hampshire. It has Stephen Blackmore, 16 Churchill Way, Cardiff, and Prince of Wales Avenue on its incorporation document, linking to the fraud. Jeffrey Michael George Collins connects CW Fellows Limited to Wilkins Kennedy LLP that had also already been linked to H.J. Holt that I told you about. So that's 2 connections going back into the Doomsday Cult, immediately coming from the Ice Cube neutrino device research at Antarctica. I suspect that this company, Wilkins Kennedy, is linked to JFK's family, John F. Kennedy's family. Richard Lumley Green Wilkinson connects CW Fellows Limited to St. George Foundation Limited that had been incorporated in 2006 when I moved to Dorset. Secretarial appointments is shown in the people record and makes important connections to Eurofins and to my ring, which links to Rome and other major areas of the fraud, including a document pertaining to the 13th bloodline of Christ that supposedly ties to the Illuminati having the bloodline of Christ and Lucifer within them, as shown elsewhere. St. George companies make important connections linked to the crimes against humanity, with St. George's Police Trust linked to the Chief Constable of York, shown in the research of the child abuse scandal involving its bishop, to St. George's Court Management in Witham Limited, which connects immediately to a record for the Cray's mother. Remember, my family were associated with the Crays, if you remember, I don't know if you remember me saying that before. St. George's School Ascot Trust Limited, which links to Sarah Ferguson, and major links to the bloodstock industry and back to the research of the death of George Floyd. And St. George's Order, a St. George's Order with a badge depicting George Floyd, linked directly to the Duke of Kent, and Freemasons and to King Charles. St. George's Edinburgh is linked to Financial Ombudsman Services Limited within the company's house records, with financial ombudsman companies linked quickly to King Charles again, Prince William, Jeffrey Epstein, the Flemings, McDonald's, the research of adrenochrome, the blood of tortured children, and the apparent threat from cell towers, and directly to Ocean Point Properties as well, where Stephen Owens of Exbourne Manor had been a director. stemming from the research. This was stemming from the research of Tobias Elwood. Now, Stephen Owens links to the Russian government. He was the secretary for Exbourne Manor when my investigation began in 2022. And he links to the Russian government, and he links to Elon Musk very quickly. So this is all coming in from these St. George's companies that I've found throughout my research. Just going to have a quick look at the comments. Does Bill Gates have a safe and effective vaccine I can pre-order for the new virus? Asking for a friend. What does that say? There's something shreds as well in Buckingham Palace. Bobsy, it started with the wheelie bins. The Priory of Sion. Yeah, I've researched that. All tying in with my research. That's on another bit of the research, linking in with the Da Vinci Code, which came out in 2006 when I moved from Kent to Dorset. Neutrino array in Antarctica. Yeah, that's probably the same thing. I think it's the neutrino ice cube facility or something. It's called the neutrino ice cube. And the cube becomes relevant, I believe that's linking in with satanic cube element of this. I've done loads of research surrounding that. I can't ignore that. Are any of you in the chat actually doing anything about this? You've got a strategy. I advise you all to, especially what I'm going to be telling you later as we go through with this in relation to the earthquakes. I can't ignore it, everyone. You know, it's possible that it's an elaborate deception for me to uncover. You know, I'm going to be talking about the earthquake in 2004 and how relevant that is. There's just too much evidence now to suggest that, you know, you all need to be doing something. Richard Drax, don't know about Richard Drax, sorry. Past space is my home. Someone's put. AI is scary. Yeah, AI is very... Two trolls, someone's put. Let's just have a look back. Rather than worrying about the comments too much, just ignore them. If a lot of people get really frustrated, well, just don't look at them. I'll try and keep an eye on them and get rid of them if I can. I'm not normally able, when I'm showing the evidence, I can't actually normally see the comments. So canon law, look at the changes in canon law. Thanks, Martin. Someone's put blue ice Antarctic phenomenon. Press 1 if you think Gary should get a skin fade. Yeah, goodbye. I haven't got time for messing around with stupid comments like that. Obviously, that's them gone. I hope there's innocent people listening. I really do. Otherwise, everything I'm doing is absolutely pointless. If I can't get the evidence out to innocent people, then... RBA systems involved, yeah, 100%. 100, massively linked to it. Criminal companies, they've got largest defence contractor for the United Kingdom. Links directly to the cell towers. Black nobility, yeah, Marty, 100% tied into this. Gary, I believe a lot of what you report, however, I believe from my 15 years extensive research, you are wrong about President Trump. Have you actually requested my document? Probably not. I don't know. Maybe you have. The evidence is absolutely overwhelming about Donald Trump being part of this. Overwhelming. Look, if someone was actually doing something, and it wasn't just me doing it, then they wouldn't be allowing criminal companies to verify criminal companies. All right? They're allowing the fraud to continue. They're also allowing virtual secretaries. If Donald Trump was really a good guy, the first thing that you'd come out with is you'd be doing what I'm doing, wouldn't you? You'd be saying, look, we have a criminal system of financial laundering facilitating the crimes against the children. That's the first thing you need to address. I've been doing this for 4 years. Not once has anyone else mentioned it. So, no. I think they know something about me, and I'm going to be the one that ends up changing this somehow. I don't quite know what it is exactly I need to do, and I'm still working on that. But the most important thing is I get the evidence out first of all. I'm linked to the QAnon side of things in multiple ways as well. Back to the Future, through the company's house records, I mean. Thermite Brothers were involved. Yeah, BAE Systems 100% involved. If invited Masonic membership. Never been a Mason, never will be. They're massively part of this, tied to the blood of the children. You know, I still have to consider that the blood of the children is a deception, but my goodness me, it's all the way through the research. So much so I can't ignore it. It's just massive. Trump forever. Goodbye. Goodbye. There's a lot of people being mind controlled by this. You've got to remember the evidence I've got suggests they're able to use sound frequencies to program people's minds, and they'll be being able to do it through subliminal messages as well. It's we haven't got time to say that Trump's on the right side of this, all right, because there's no signs whatsoever that he is on the right side of this, and all it's going to do is provide people with a fake savior, all right, to allow them time to carry on with their agenda. And I do advise anyone, you know, there's people that are criticizing me, haven't even got the document yet to confirm everything that I'm saying. You can go and verify what I'm showing you. You can go and check it to see that it's all true. No, nobody in good in power at all, according to all of my research. No. You've got to remember the system's been set up over the last 700 years at least. They've had time to position people, and they are exploiting all of humanity. So they're all compromised. And it's linked into vampirism. It's linked into the drinking of blood. So there's just too many people to trust. You can't trust anyone, unfortunately, that's part of the criminal system. You can't, because they're all compromised by it. They're all compromised by the blood, the fraud. You've got to remember this is trillions of pounds worth of fraud. It's linked into the international drug trade. It's linked into the sex trade, legal and illegal. It's linked into the blood of the children. And I can't ignore the connection to the vampirism. It's massive. It's massive. And I don't mean people with fangs and cape, but the drinking of blood in all of this. And very likely the fact that the evidence, and they're even telling us this, that they've been able to extend life through the constant changing of the blood within their body and the organ harvesting. And it looks as though what they've been doing is harvesting through this criminal network, harvesting off of the innocents. Sorry, meant William Sasha Riley, someone's put. I don't know about William Sasha Riley. I haven't really done any research on that. In my town, I hear people talking about voting, and it makes me upset. Yeah, there's absolutely no point voting. There is no point. It's just a mockery to you. It's obviously they've already decided. You've even got people that are telling you that it's already decided. Nadine Dorries. If you type in Nadine Dorries talking about Douglas Smith, she was within the government. She actually tells you that they've already decided who's going to be in position. But interestingly, she talks about Douglas Smith and the fact that he was still is, I believe, he's going to be influential in here. The advisor for the last few prime ministers, started up fever sex parties, been arrested for threats to kill, and also practices the dark arts. So that's what Nadine Dorries was saying. But Nadine Dorries connects to the same companies through the Companies House records. So that's her, it looks like, being positioned to expose Douglas Smith by the people behind this whole system. Very interesting. So it's very difficult to work out, you know, they're obviously exposing themselves for whatever reason. And there's even information being given to me, possibly by good people within the criminal system, that are potentially trying to facilitate me. Now, I believe there are going to be, you know, I said you can't trust any of them, but I believe there's going to be good people in there, but the system is so compromised they can't actually possibly say what really needs to be said. But I do suspect there's people within the criminal system that may be feeding me information that potentially are linked into the Knights Templar and know the truth potentially about me, and are trying to support me without actually making obvious their support to me, if that makes sense. So, yeah, although I'm saying you can't trust anyone in the system, I don't believe you can, because I don't believe they're able to come out and openly do the right thing and facilitate me. But I do believe potentially that there are things being done to facilitate me because of who I may be in all of this. You know, we've got to ask the big question, why am I still alive? I mean, I shouldn't be alive with what I'm exposing. Putting everybody's face in a document to the crimes against the children, I shouldn't be alive. So yeah, it's massive. But anyway, you're just going to see as we go through tonight the evidence in relation to the earthquakes. I can't ignore it whatsoever. Anyway, let's come back to this research. This is still coming in from the clock, okay, that was unveiled by Stephen Hawking on the exact same day that a malfunction occurred with the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland in 2008, 9 days after they first activated it. Okay, and remember, my dream links to a problem with the collider, the Large Hadron Collider control panel, linking it to hell, and the ninth circle being the name that the technicians use when there's a problem with that equipment. Anyway, we have this ombudsman company we were talking about, links to Jeffrey Epstein, the Flemings, McDonald's, the researcher of adrenochrome, the blood of tortured children, and the apparent threat from cell towers, and directly to Ocean Point Properties, where Stephen Owens who has been a Secretary of Export Manager during my first investigations, is also connected to that company. All that was established via the research of Tobias Elwood, who was the former MP for the area of Export Manor Freehold Limited, where my investigation began, which is also where Jimmy Savile's property is based, or was based, less than 5 minutes away from Export Manor, and is actually connected via the Company's House records immediately to Export Manor, and is linked to the royal family, and is linked to the death, multiple times to the death of Daniel Morgan, who was supposedly axed to death in 1987, linking him with the Freemasons. And that links to the phone hacking scandal, the Levinson inquiry, which then links to the death of Millie Dowler and loads of other multiple supposed deaths, presuming those deaths are real. It also links from the former MP for the area, Tobias Elwood, it links to my wife's family almost immediately, and to the Honourable Society of the Knights of the Round Table, that links back to me via my former school, 3.5 hours away from where Export Manor was, and I didn't know anybody down there when I moved down there, okay? This links to my former school, the Knights Templar location I told you about earlier, and via a Waterman offshore company. And St George's Foundation, having been incorporated in 2006 when I moved to Kent, and linking to my ring in the research of the Corpus Clock, as I've said. Research shows that St George, because I've heard of St George, but I couldn't remember exactly his relevance in this, died in 303, to a very old fable or character in all of this. Also, George Lyder, and he was an early Christian martyr who is venerated as a saint in Christianity. According to holy tradition, he was a soldier in the Roman army of Cappadocian Greek origin. He became a member of the Praetorian Guard for Roman Emperor Diocletian during the Diocletianic persecution. He was sentenced to death for refusing to recant his Christian faith. He became one of the most venerated saints, heroes in Christianity. Since the Crusades, he had been venerated especially as a military saint. He is respected by Christians, Druze, as well as some Muslims, as a martyr of the monotheistic faith. And the reason I've said that is because there's loads of very important connections to St George's throughout my research. So it's obviously very relevant to them. A search of Christie College. Remember, this is the college where the clock was unveiled on the same day that a technical fault occurred at the Large Hadron Collider. A search for Christie College, University of Cambridge, through Google reveals that Christie College, Cambridge, is on Company's House, but all information has been blocked by Company's House, suggesting it's very important to them. Right? There's not many companies they've actually blocked absolutely everything, and they have, even though Company's House role is to actually give people information about that company. They blocked absolutely everything. Company's House shows that Christie's College Enterprises Limited had been incorporated in 2003, and Christ's College had been appointed as a significant company of control in 2016, after the Pizzagate scandal had been exposed, and a ritual took place in August 2016 at, according to the research, they're claiming it's a hoax, by the Shiva statue at CERN, which represents creation and destruction. Again, this connects to the fraud via Stephen Blackmore, the exact same name, of 16 Churchill Way in Cardiff. David John Ball connects Christie's College Enterprises Limited to 6 companies, including Cambridge Colleges Funding PLC, where they've been appointed in February 2019, and it dissolved in 2023 as I escalated the exposure. Sorry, they resigned in 2023 as I escalated the exposure. The company had been incorporated in June 2013 and has Mills and Reeve as its registered address, which features at key times throughout my research. Again, its incorporation document that is featured at key times. Nicholas Graham Allen connects this company to 24 companies, including Royal Society Trading Limited. So very, very quickly, from the clock, we have a connection to a royal organization, but this has already been directly connected, this company, to the Royal to Foundation for Science and Technology. Now, this is critical, what I'm about to tell you. So from the clock, we've now got Royal Society Trading Limited. This had already been directly linked to Foundation for Science and Technology, that had been incorporated the year I was born and dissolved in December 2022, the month I made the first report of the fraud. It connects directly to Charles Darwin House, suggesting a link to the theory of evolution, to a company called Big Bang Education CIC, suggesting the expansion of the universe, creation, the opposite of inversion. It connects to Newton's Apple Foundation, which connects to the symbol of Apple, with Apple being created in 1976, the year before I was born, and that then linking into the St. Pui X, which I think is going to represent the bloodline of Christ. So you have Newton's Apple Foundation, straight to this company. This is all from this company via the directors. The Christchurch Earthquake Appeal UK. Anthony John Leslie Lloyd also connects to the company that appears to be related to Edward Lloyd, who was married to a Fleming in the 1920s, and Edward Lloyd was involved in the creation of Sweeney Todd and the Varney the Vampire character, which suggests this connection to a Lloyd and a Fleming, which I think is the Lloyd is going to link to the Lloyd's Bank, tying them through the marriage in the 1920s to the Flemings, and then going back into the 1800s, you had Edward Lloyd, who created Varney the Vampire, Sweeney Todd, and they've even created on Company's House a Sweeney Todd group, where all of the main solicitors are centralised to the Sweeney Todd group, which links to the BBC, it links to the De Reyes, the death of Jill Dando, to the Vatican, to the blood of the tortured children, to the royal family, to the main currency producer, which began life as Portals in Hampshire in the south of England, where Deborah Fleming was the NHS chief executive in 1711. Well, 1711 it started Portals. She obviously wasn't, as far as I know, wasn't alive at that point. So we have all of these connections. Not only that, all from the Foundation of Science and Technology. We have a connection to B'nai B'rith Foundation, which links to the Jewish control and infiltration, if you like. I think is linking in with a satanic cult and an infiltration of the Judaistic faith and their control over America, linking in with the B'nai B'rith Foundation, linking with the Honourable Society of the Knights of the Round Table again, which goes back to my former school and the Knights Templar location and the Waterman Company. It also connects directly, we're still talking about the royal company there that we were looking at. It also connects directly to, where are we? Directly to Cambridge OCR, which is shown in the research of the death of Jill Dando again, linking to Mishcon de Reya, which links to the cell towers, again via an organisation called ICNIRP, who was supposedly regulating the effects on humans from mobile phones and also cell towers. This links to the cell towers that were erected in Wuhan in China the same month, August 2019, when Jeffrey Epstein supposedly died, a month after he was arrested, when a protest took place in Wuhan over incinerator plant being built there. So it links to Mishcon de Reya and to the Vatican again via that research. In a minute, we're going to move on to another subject. This is all still coming from the clock. So this tells us, you know, that timing of unveiling that clock is not going to be a coincidence, is it? That's not going to be a coincidence. I've lost where I am now. I read that bit. Oh, sorry, I've just gone through the... I've missed my screenshot. Here we are. Right, there we go. The Foundation for Science and Technology also connects to Ghislaine Maxwell very, very quickly. And critically, it also connects to Keller Group PLC, who was the company that created the control panel for the Large Hadron Collider, which links to my dream, and fraud is shown throughout all of those companies that I've just told you about. Royal Society connections are made throughout the document, including Royal Society London linked directly to CERN Limited, directly to CERN Limited by For Business on their incorporation documents. And major areas of the criminal network to Esther Ranson and the criminal children's charities from the research of Richard Knighton, who was positioned as the head of the military as I continue to expose my fraud in 2025, to Australian Thomas Holt from the research of the device at Antarctica, again to Julian Assange and the Doomsday Cult, to Sir Auckland Geddes and Monk's Investment Trust Public Limited Company, which is shown on page 40 of the incorporation document of the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales, that actually creates all that links most areas of the fraud together. Now that Monk's company is very, very important. Go and look at it if you don't believe me. All of the research is through the Companies House records. This evidence that I'm showing you, it's all verifiable, it's all corroborative, and the document that I'm producing enables everybody to check absolutely everything to see everything I'm saying is true. Okay, you've got to ask yourself, why there are 50 police reports that I've submitted, emails to 650 members of Parliament, none of it is even being responded to. I didn't turn up at court on the 18th of November. Nothing has happened to me. Okay, they were refusing to give me their names, the people that I was liaising with on the legal team at Inverness, refused to answer my questions, refused to actually interview me for disabling a cell tower, the only person in the entire world to put their face to them disabling a cell tower and explaining the justification for it. 9 times I requested to be interviewed to trigger the ability to get my evidence within their legal system. They have not interviewed me once, which means there is no fair trial. All right, there's no fair trial if you don't have an opportunity to be interviewed so that they can help prove or disprove your involvement in that by the evidence that you provide in the interview. So they refused everybody. All right. They could find me if they really wanted to. They haven't arrested me. They know. I actually believe that the whole prison situation was completely staged. Okay, I believe they had actors all around me. Probably the whole prison situation was staged with actors. That's what I now believe, and there's information to suggest that was the case, which then tells you who I'm probably going to be in this, right? They wouldn't have gone to that amount of length, okay, unless there was something about me. They created a fake prison number. There was loads and loads of other stuff. Refused to actually interview me, as I've said. There's so much more stuff I could tell you about the prison stuff, but I want to focus on this earthquake technology and concerns around the tribulation event on Earth, because that is what I need to try and avoid. Because I believe if they go ahead, if this is real, you know, let's just presume this threat is real, it could be that they're trying to do it because they think they have to bring about a judgment, a false tribulation, but I don't think that will be a just tribulation on Earth to do that because of the criminal system they've had in place and the deception surrounding it. And of course, you've got billions of other life forms we've got to think about. This isn't just about humans. if they're going to falsify a tribulation event, then you're talking about destroying most of nature as well. So that would not be just on nature, and it wouldn't be a sudden. Now they're trying to create a sudden end of everything, creation, which would not be painless through the point of singularity, it seems. But I don't think they're able to now do that because of the exposure. So I think what you're going to have is possibly, according to all of the research, is a tribulation event, which you're not going to just suddenly be able to instantly judge people. You're going to have lots of pain, lots of suffering, all right, through that tribulation event. Well, that's not a just situation when the whole system they've got in place has gone against the creator in the first place and has actually deceived most of humanity, which means it would not be a just judgment upon humanity. So we have this connection to the control panel. Where was I going with this? Okay, so we've got the Royal Foundation. Yeah, so this, if you go and look at page 40 of the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales, you will see that there is a Monk's investment company. If you go into that company on a separate search, go and look from the February 2022, you will see a constant escalation ever since February 2022, which is when Vladimir Putin announced the special military operation against Ukraine, which is when I was starting to expose the fraud in my early inquiries. You will see vast amounts of monies, multi-millions of pounds, suddenly moving through that company. You can see on the filing history, go and look at it. You'll see, I don't know if it stopped, but it was escalating, and sometimes it was £6 million at one time, and it was getting more and more and more every time. That is through that Monk's investment company on page 40 of the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales that actually links to me to my upbringing via Ingenious Film Partners. Okay, so we're still talking about the Royal Foundation companies, these royal companies. It connects to Michael Rees and to a company called Savile Fashion Export Limited that I suspect will relate from my research to Savile Row and the potential skinning of children alive and then making garments or clothes, the leather side of things, out of the skin of the innocents, which ties into the, as I've said, the evidence that I've got in relation to the fate of Madeleine McCann and Prince Harry's shoes at the time of Jeffrey Epstein's arrest, which links into everything I'm telling you about now, the collider technology. It also connects to, that was in the research of Jim Carey, okay, that I found that evidence, and appearing to link to two royal family companies elsewhere as well. It also links to the research of John F. Kennedy, which links to the Flemings and the Doomsday Cult via Julian Assange, to the research of Brexit, to J.P. Morgan again, which links back to the Flemings, by Michael Forsyth, to the Mind Charity and the apparent abuse of children at the Feversham Child Abuse Inquiry scandal they researched, to Gerald McCann, obviously Madeleine McCann's father, supposedly, and a possible relative of the High Priest of the Church of Satan, to a World Police Organization, and a round table company linking with the Goldsmiths and the research of the fault at CERN, as I've said, as I'm showing you now. Research shows that the University of Cambridge in England was founded in 1209. The University of Cambridge is the world's third oldest university in continuous operation. The university's founding followed the arrival of scholars who left the University of Oxford for Cambridge after a dispute with local townspeople. The two ancient English universities, although sometimes described as rivals, share many common features and are often jointly referred to as Oxbridge. Oxford is where Robert Maxwell and Ghislaine Maxwell were very, very prominent. Research shows that the oldest active college in the world, so this basically prompted me to look at where's the oldest one, and that was the third oldest. Well, the oldest one is in Morocco, according to this. And this now becomes relevant. The University of Al-Qawra Wilin, pronouncing that wrong, I'm sure. Not try to pronounce that. Is a university located in Fez, Morocco. It was founded as a mosque by Fatima al-Fihri in 857 to 859 and subsequently became one of the leading spiritual and educational centers of the Islamic Golden Age. It was incorporated into Morocco's modern state university system in 1963, which is the year of the first James Bond movie, which does become relevant because that links to the Flemings, and also the year of the assassination attempt of JFK, or sorry, the actual assassination supposedly of JFK. It was officially named University of Al-Qura Urini 2 years later. So it looks as though they infiltrated the college around the time of all of this going on, linking in with the Flemings. This was the year, as I said, the year of the assassination in the James Bond movie, which links to Ian Fleming, and the release of the first James Bond movie, which links to Ian Fleming and links to Aleister Crowley. Okay, Aleister Crowley is connected to Ian Fleming via the research. Aleister Crowley is into supposedly black magic and sex magic, and tying in with the blood sacrifice as well, which then obviously is linking in with the Flemings and all of this, which means links to Exmoor Manor in my investigation and the satanic connection that I've made, which links in with the craze. And I've already got that connection via Osmsley House, thanks to some other information I've had. And that ties directly to Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited from Aleister Crowley, directly to the craze, which means my family, because they were associated with the Cray twins before I was born, and then directly to Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited and into the movie industry. And that links with a collaboration via Osmsley House. What was it called? The Primado Affair? No, you'll know. I can't remember the name of it. But where there was a member of the English government involved in a three-way relationship with a lady called Catherine Keeler and somebody within the Russian spy element. And they were involved in a three-way relationship connecting to Osmsley House, according to the research I've got, which is it was in the New Forest, which connects directly to Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited, as I've said. So Aleister Crowley and Ian Fleming are connected, and they both appear to have had significant links to Morocco, okay, and particularly Tangier, where scenes for several James Bond movies were filmed. The mosque building itself is also a significant complex of historical Moroccan and Islamic architecture that features elements from many different periods of Moroccan history. Research suggests Morocco also has significant links to scriptures, including Christianity and Islam, the two faiths that those behind the criminal system appear to want to destroy, according to the Albert Pike letter. A search for University of whatever the name is, Company's House through Google reveals Quran comes up. That had been incorporated in 2023 as I started exposing the fraud. It has a registered address of 71 to 75 Shelton Street, Covent Gardens, London. Well, this exact same address has featured throughout the fraud in my following areas of research. Directly to the French judge for the death of Princess Diana, Stéphane Hervé. And prior to her death, a company called... it's gone out of my mind now. It's gone out of my mind. On the Hakluyt International Advisory Board company filing history, which is the intelligence agency company that connects to the Russian government, is on page 40 of the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales. Again, same as the Monks company, which means it links to me via Ingenious Partners. Okay, that also links to the Russian government, royal family, and it was set up linked to the intelligence agencies. Prior to Princess Diana's death, a key company is removed from that company. Okay, prior to her death, that exact same company links to the judges in the inquiry of Princess Diana's death. Remember, this is linked to the satanic cult. What's his name? Dodi Fayad connects almost immediately from the research of the high priest of the Church of Satan, positioned at the in 2001. Okay, after, or I don't know whether it was after, but it was 2001, the same year as the World Trade Center disaster. And that links via the Peter Gilmore, who's positioned as the High Priest of Church of Satan. You have an atomic weapons company, and that links, as I've said, with Dodi Al-Fayed, who was in a relationship with Princess Diana about a month before she supposedly died. And it also connects to the case of Nicola Bulley straight away. And it connects to, where else does it connect? Oh, it connects to the father in the Russell murders of the Chillenden deaths in Kent, in Chillenden, in, I think it was 1996, could be wrong. To the father, he links to the Church of Satan. And where else does it link? To Savile Row. It also connects back to Savile Row for the Church of Satan, which ties into the skinning companies that I've told you about earlier, which links into the Beatles and the potential murder and unaliving of real Paul McCartney in the year of 1966, which was the establishment of the Church of Satan. That appears from the research that I've got to have involved the Cray twins in removing Paul McCartney and positioning a fake Paul McCartney, according to the research. That's what it's suggesting, involving the Thompsons, which was Arthur Thompson was in control of Glasgow at the time, and they were in cahoots with the Cray twins. Anyway, that all links in with Savile Row. And the aristocratic tailoring of with leather, which I believe, according to my research, is with the skin of the innocents. And then from there, you've got links in from the Church of Satan. Now I've got links to Louis Vuitton. I've got links to Prada, Devil Wears Prada. Interesting, isn't it? Devil Wears Prada came out in 2006, the same year that I moved from Kent to Dorset, the same year that Apocalypso came out, which links to the Mayans, which we come to later. Same year that the Da Vinci Code movie came out as well, which is in relation to the deception within Christianity. And I actually came across the Savile Row evidence when I was researching the Wayfair scandal of the child trafficking network. And that was where they were hiding, it looks like, the laundering money in relation to websites and high value pieces of furniture, which looks as though they were being used to hide. They were giving them names, okay, children, or don't know if the children's names, but names to these bits of furniture, trying to hide the link into the laundering of the money and the crimes against the children via the Wayfair scandal. Now, I actually came to the Savile Row research through that Wayfair scandal, which then links in, as I've just told you, to the Church of Satan, to Dodi Al-Fayed, and to all of this evidence that I'm telling you about. So it also not only connects to the judge of Diana's death, it connects immediately, we're talking immediate connections, to Angela Rayner, who was positioned as the Deputy Prime Minister in 2024, as I continue my exposure, to Sweeney Todd Group that I've told you about, which links into vampirism and the blood of the children. To paedophile Jonathan King directly, he was convicted in September 2001, same month as the World Trade Center disaster. It connects immediately to the research of Lee Clegg of the World Marshal Authority, who tried testing me to offer me £8,000 a month for the next 20 years to be quiet about all of this. And of course I said, doesn't matter what money you offer me, I'm not going to be quiet. There must be a change of system to protect humanity and protect children in the future. And by doing that, the entire system will be exposed and the people behind this will also be exposed. This is very easily resolved, everybody. Okay, we are very much on the cusp of being able to create heaven on earth, okay, because of this exposure. We have so links to Lee Clegg, who links to the United Nations. It also links to NATO. This is the exact same address, 7175 Covent Gardens. London connects to all of these. To missing Georgina Gasella, who went missing in 2018. To the Southport stabbings of 2024. To Anthony and Nicole Kidman. To the Stephen Lawrence inquiry. To the threat from directed energy and CERN via the future circular collider companies, likely relating to the colliders. Well, it's the FCC companies, actually, rather than, doesn't say future circular collider, but I suspect it is. But there's another organisation which also has the same acronym that relates to the communication side of things, which then ties into the threat of directed energy through the cell towers. It connects to the Doomsday cult again, to Sasha Stone via the International Tribunal Courts of Natural Justice, and linking to the CIA, to the blood of tortured children, and to the Vatican from him. That address links to the White House Limited, a company called the White House Limited, to artificial intelligence, which began its life in a huge way in Sherborne in Dorset, to the former chair of the US President's Intelligence Advisory Board, to the research surrounding Jim Carrey again, to Angela Merkel, to the research surrounding Yorkshire and where fox hunting began, which it seems they've been using as a cover to hunt the children on estates, to Deborah Fleming, who initiated my removal from Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, linking with the Association of Chief Police Officers of the United Kingdom, which links into the Doomsday Cult again, and into Robert Maxwell, to the research of the former MP for the area again, where Exbourne Manor is located, and Jimmy Savile's property was also located, and they are connected. To the research of DARPA, a research and development organization in America in relation to weapon systems and the controlling of weather. To the apparent death of plasma scientists last year, possibly relating to blood plasma. To the research of Artemis II, the recent space expedition, which links massively into the blood of the children. And I don't believe they've ever gone into space now, and it links to the blood of the children. So this gives them the perfect deception to launder billions through the fake space exploration program in relation to the blood of the children and how it ties into everything else that I'm exposing. To the Galileo Foundation, which links directly to the prophecy of the popes again, and the 3-eye Atlas comet that was supposedly discovered in July 2025. To the research of supermarkets, which are all connected. Immediately to the research of Facebook. To the research of the White House coup, linking with Donald Trump. To the research of William M. Blyer regarding the Epstein files, who has just recently been named as overseeing the release of that evidence. He's linking into the blood and torture of the children. To the research of Dan Brown, leading to the bloodline of Christ evidence. To Georgina Stone in the research of the Georgia Guidestones. To the research of John Profumo, that's it, in the Profumo affair, which links into the Krays and to the Osmsley House in the New Forest, and to the research of Taylor Swift, and all leading to major areas of the criminal network and the apparent crimes against children as shown elsewhere. Okay, I'm just going to come to some comments, and then I'm going to get on. It's just going to get bigger and bigger what I'm going to be telling you. We're going to be talking about the earthquakes very soon and how that ties in with the colliders and the research of the collider technology and the falsified prophecies. Someone's put more people are believing that Princess Diana, Michael Jackson, JFK are still alive. Anyone else hearing this again? It's possible that everything is a deception and they never died. It's possible. Okay, it's possible. That's not what the evidence is suggesting. However, it's still possible, isn't it? It's possible that, and we're going to come to this later, because what all of this links into is a falsified apocalypse deception tying in with Derren Brown and with political organizations and a load of production companies, and also companies where they're employing actors. So we have to consider that, but we also have to consider what if they're just making us believe that it could be fake. Whichever way you look at this, on the very foundation level, okay, this is how we've got to look at it. We have a criminal financial system in place that deliberately facilitates the laundering of money in relation to conflicts, terrorism, drug trafficking, crimes against children. Even if none of those things happen, and the ability for an apocalyptic attack against all of humanity, even if none of those things are real, in terms of those real threats, they've still got a financial system in place that facilitates it. So whichever way you look at this, they are going to pay the consequences, all right? Because they would have been laundering billion. All of their big houses will be money stolen from you, all right? All of their drug addictions will be money stolen from you through this system of fraud. So whichever way you look at this, they're in serious trouble. And they know that, you see, which is why they're desperate to come up with a fake alien invasion, all right? And what that gives them the ability to do is potentially get rid of a lot of people, all right, that risk stopping them, and then blame it on aliens, okay, and make it seem as though it was aliens that did it. It also gives the ability to then explain away. If that goes wrong, well, they can say that the aliens were the ones that were involved in the crimes against the children. But I know this is a deception because, or the evidence says it's a deception because people that I know are linked to the fraud, that I know are linked to the Vatican, and I know are linked to the blood of the children, are the ones that were trying to get me to believe in the alien invasion. Really trying to get me to believe in it. They even tried to set up someone saying they loved me and to come and live with them. And over a period of few months, that person online was creating a relationship, trying to create a relationship with me. I wasn't interested because I was still married, okay, at that point. And I don't know if I still am, but, you know, I wouldn't have done anything because I was married at the time. And they even tried doing that. And as soon as I started catching on to the deception she tried, guess what? Making me look at Sasha Stone. Look at the evidence. He's always talking about aliens with somebody else who other people were trying to feed me into. As soon as I started realizing it, that person suddenly completely dropped me and turned on me because they knew it wasn't working against me. All right, because I could see through their deception. Possibly because of who I might be in this. All right, I'm able to, it seems, now it's not straight away, but I'm able to see through pretty much, it seems, see through all of the deception. Now, I'm not saying every now and then it's becoming very difficult. Of course it is, because you've got so many people being sent my way, so many people that are compromised, trying to lead me in wrong directions. However, I'm able to have a fairly good idea as to what's really going on because I have all of the evidence linking in with this. And because I know you have a criminal financial system in place, we know that that motivates the lies, right? So we know if you've got people talking about shapeshifters and aliens and lizards that are linked to the intelligence agencies, to the drug trafficking network and the fraud, then we know that's going to be part of their agenda because they're lying, because they're not exposing the criminal system they have in place, you see. So you can't trust anyone unless they're talking about this company's house fraud. It's really that simple. It really is that simple. Billy Shears, glass eye without book. He was replacement to Paul McCartney. Thanks very much for that, Christy Bell. Billy Shears, was it? Thank you. Yeah, there was a meeting that took place with the Krays. I've actually got the article. It was even an article. And they were talking about how they can take over the Beatles. And this was in, I think it was early 1960s. And of course, then this whole thing came out about 1966 with him suddenly not potentially having died in a car crash. And then in 1969, Abbey Road was released, or around that time. And Abbey Road was one of the most famous album cover in the world. And only 3 of them were wearing suits by the Nutters of Savile Row. Only 3 of them. I don't know which one wasn't, but we can assume that. I haven't checked, actually. We can assume that was possibly Paul McCartney. That would have been them telling us he wasn't the real Paul McCartney. And I've got evidence tying into the Abbey Road side of things as well that comes up at a key time. Gary, I'm new here. What can we do to help? How do we deal with this? You need to be making citizens' arrests of the solicitors. That's what you need to be doing. Not touching them, not physically assaulting them. You need to expose arrests of the solicitors. That will lead us out of this. All right? You just need somebody to be doing it. And that is exactly what I would be doing by myself if necessary. But I can't do that at the moment because, A, if there's an arrest warrant out for me, that gives them the ability to get rid of me straight away, and then I'm out of action, which means I'm not going to be able to build any further evidence. I can't build a strategy. And if I'm someone potentially important in this, in a bloodline way, then I need to ensure that I'm still here to come out the other side of this. All right? Because I'm not corrupted by the drugs, by the sex, by the money, by the cults, by the Freemasons. I'm completely neutral in this, okay, in terms of working on just on my moral conscience and willing to put everything at stake, if you like, but also I've got to be strategic in how much I put myself on the line with this. Now, all of you won't have it. Most of you aren't going to have an arrest warrant. There is absolutely nothing wrong with any of you going in to a solicitor and exposing them with a citizen's arrest. Nothing can happen to you as long as you're calm, polite, don't swear, don't touch them. Nothing can happen. And that is what you need to be doing. And you need to expose them. Give the police the chance to come and take those people away. Okay? If not, then you expose the police as part of that criminal network as well. That's what you need to do. And I would, you're going to see the evidence. Let's carry on with the evidence. You really do need to start doing this, because if this threat is real, there's everything at stake. And you're going to be hearing, I don't want to go on too late actually, but looks like it's going to be late because I haven't even done half of it. So we're going to be talking about the collider technology now a little bit more. You had a collider called the Hera collider, okay, which was the first collider on Earth, I believe, and that was in Germany. And Hera is the name of a Greek god, I believe it is, and in the Vatican they have a statue of Hera. So we can see that this is very important with everything that I'm talking about, because the Vatican, all of the evidence converges on the Vatican, the blood of the children, the collider, and these other subjects that we're talking about here. So Hera was a Greek god. There's a statue of them at the Vatican, so we know it's important. Well, they called the collider Hera as well. Hera is also the name of the company, which is, I think it's the biggest electricity company in Rome or in Italy. And what else is relevant about it? There's something else I've forgotten. However, this collider, it's called the Hadron Electron Ringelage, or Hera, at Desi in Hamburg is where it was first. And it was first achieved electron-proton collisions on October the 19th, 1991. Research suggested the Russian coup also occurred on this day. Okay, so the coup which brought down ultimately the former Soviet Union and changed it to the new Russia, the Russian Foundation, or Russian Foundation. But they appear to have removed any mention of the coup within the articles. Okay, so when I searched it, it came up saying that this Russian coup was on the exact same day that the Hera was activated. And yet when you go into them, it would not mention the coup. All right, so that suggests they removed that from the articles because they knew I was going to find it tying in with the date and the activation of the Hera. Now, on searching when the coup did take place, the information within other articles suggests it occurred between the 12th to the 21st of August 1991. Okay, this suggests the dates may have been changed to prevent a correlation of the activation of the Hera collider. Information states the following earthquake also occurred on that date that Hera was activated. Now, of course, there's lots of earthquakes around the world, so I can't confirm this is definitely to do with the activation of the collider, but let me just give you the evidence as we go in. So this was the 1991 Utakashi earthquake, also known as the Garwal earthquake, and it occurred at 2:53 Indian Standard Time on the 20th of October with a magnitude of 6.8, a maximum Mercalli intensity of, which is interesting, IX, which is obviously a number, but I found that interesting how they put an X there. Okay, remember we've got the X links into the bloodline of Christ, and it has violence in the brackets. This thrust event was instrumentally recorded and occurred along the main central thrust in the Utakashi and Garhwal regions of the Indian state, then still part of the Uttar Pradesh. High intensity shaking resulted in the deaths of at least 768 people and the destruction of thousands of homes. Now, if I just go back to well, this now becomes even more relevant with the evidence I'm finding. I wonder what date that happened, actually. This becomes even more relevant now. Well, I'll wait until we get to that later, because now, as I'm going through the evidence, you see, I'm finding and thinking of very key events that are now fitting into place with this. We'll come to that in a minute when I get to that bit. Research suggests the relativistic heavy ion collider was first activated in New York on the 12th of June 2000. Now, they started building that in New York in 1991, right? The same year that they activated the Hera one in Germany, they started building the one in New York. And people were coming out, scientists were saying it could cause a black hole on Earth. And they still went ahead and started building it, according to what they've told us. This is in their own information they've given us. Now, everything else is supplementary. The Company's House records is what's important. Okay, this trail of evidence through the Company's House records Everything else becomes supplementary to that. But the relativistic heavy ion collider, although they started building it in 1991, it was activated on the 12th of June 2000. Research suggests the collider was then deactivated. Okay, the relatively heavy ion collider was deactivated in February 2026 this year, after I continuously exposed its connections to the criminal network. Now, you've got to realize how massive this is. If I'm able to change the course of events and get these organizations shutting down, it's a massive sign to suggest who I may be in all of this. Now, this isn't the only one. There's so many things have happened as I'm exposing the evidence. They've actually told me or given me an indication that I have the ability to potentially change the outcome of this with an potential asteroid strike that they said was going to potentially occur in 2032. That was after I publicized the evidence saying there might be a falsified apocalyptic event of an asteroid hitting the Earth in 2032. This was when I said it in 2025. 2 days later, articles were all over the front pages, not just in the United Kingdom. I had people in New Zealand telling me that it was on their pages as well, that an asteroid may hit the Earth in 2032. Now, that was from research that I acquired coming in from the Doomsday Clock. But there was no articles, although they were claiming to have seen it a few months earlier. It wasn't long. No, I think it was like 2 months earlier. There was no articles whatsoever to confirm that it had actually been publicized and seen prior to that live stream. This suggests they were listening to my live stream, heard me say what I said, and wanted to let me know that I had the ability to change the outcome of this. There's no other reason they would have done that. Now, what they didn't know is I'd made a mistake. Through the evidential chain coming in from the Doomsday Clock, I slipped up and put an acronym wrong, one of the letters wrong, which led me to 2032, which still led to critical evidence around that 2032, but the chain of evidential links hadn't actually worked out. Now, I didn't know that until after that live stream, and yet there they were. And we're going to come to the apocalyptic deception a bit later, actually, in relation to Darren Brown and how that lot ties in. Research suggests Iceland was affected by a series of earthquakes on the day that the relativistic heavy ion collider began. Research also suggests that the premiere of the first X-Men film, X-Men, remember, X Bloodline of Christ, was held on that day it was activated in New York. Okay, it was actually, that's where the movie was first released. The X is possibly, as I said, symbolic of the bloodline of Christ. Bryan Singer had produced this movie. Research shows that he was born in 1965. He's an American filmmaker. He's the founder of Bad Hat Productions and has produced almost all of the films he has directed, as well as multiple television series. After graduating from the University of Southern California, Singer directed the first short film, Lion's Den, in 1988. On the basis of that film, he received financing for his next film, Public Access, which was co-winner of Grand Jury Prize at the 1993 Sundance Film Festival. In the mid-1990s, Singer received critical acclaim for directing the neo-noir crime thriller, The Usual Suspects. Interesting. 1995, the same year that Hackler International Advisory Report came out, linking to intelligence agencies, on page 40 of the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales, that connects to me, and also linking to the Russian government. And they've actually removed the name Russia from company names connected to that as I was exposing the fraud. Okay, so you could see they were trying to hide the Russian connection, or they did it deliberately knowing I would find it to actually expose them. He followed this with another thriller called Apt Pupil in 1998, an adaptation of Stephen King novella about a boy's fascination with a Nazi war criminal. The Nazi deception is it's obviously a deception. All right, they were funding both sides of those events. This links in with the wars, which links into the Three World War deception of the Albert Pike letter written to Mazzini in 1871. In the 2000s, he became known for, as we've said, superhero movies such as X-Men, in 2000, the same day as the activation of the relativistic heavy ion collider, for which Singer won a 2000 Saturn Award. Saturn, remember, cube of Saturn, links in with the satanic cult, which now links all the way through this. And Superman Returns, interesting, 2006, just realised that. He then directed the World War II historical thriller Valkyrie, which came out in 2008. I need to do some more research around these because there's going to be some symbology in there. Co-wrote and produced X-Men First Class, which came out in 2011. And directed the fantasy adventure film Jack the Giant Slayer in 2013. As well as 2 more X-Men films, X-Men Days of Future Past and X-Men Apocalypse. And that Apocalypse came out in 2016, which is the same year that the Pizzagate scandal started to be exposed, and a ritual appeared to take place at CERN, at the Shiva statue, which represents creation and destruction, which then links back to the collider and Stephen Hawking studying the expansion and wanting to create a black hole, the contraction and the destruction of the universe. 2016 is also when the movie Inferno came out, the 3rd movie in relation to the Da Vinci Code movies, and Inferno relates to the 9th circle of hell and Dante's Inferno, which then links back into the control panel on my dream in relation to the Large Hadron Collider and this technical issue that we've got, which links back into Stephen Hawking's right at the beginning, 9 days after it was activated. Singer also directed the Queen biographical film Bohemian Rhapsody, which is also very relevant to the research. The Queen companies links into the research of the death of Jill Dando, which links to the Vatican and De Reyes as well. Although he was fired during this, last week, during the last week of filming this. Lawsuits were filed against Singer for sexual assault in 1997, 2014, and 2017. In 2019, The Atlantic published a report containing multiple allegations of sexual misconduct, which led to him losing several jobs in the entertainment industry. This is the director of X-Men. These allegations included Roland Emmerich, known for movies such as 2012, which becomes very relevant to the falsified prophecies and the end of the Mayan calendar. And the research links to this sex scandal to Mark John Collins Rector, who had been born in 1959 and who is an American-born businessman and convicted sex offender who founded Digital Entertainment Network, an online streaming video broadcaster and dot-com failure. Collins Rector and his business partners, Chad Shackley and Brock Pierce, operated a dead-end company out of Los Angeles mansion. There they held parties attended by Hollywood's gay A-lists. At those parties, Collins Rector and others were alleged to have engaged in sexual assaults against teenage boys. Singer is bisexual and has said that growing up in a Jewish household as a sexual minority influenced his motives. He and actress Michelle Clooney have a son who was born in January 2015. Singer lived in Malibu, California, before selling his property there in 2021, which is when I had moved back into Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited. As of June 2023, he resides in Israel after moving there several years earlier. A search for Collins Rector, his surnames, reveals an article from 2021 and mentions offshore accounts, connections to the mafia, sex crimes, and multiple murders appearing to be used to try and control the criminal agenda. Another article from 2019 features Collins Rector significantly, and it states the strange saga of Jeffrey Epstein links to a child star turned cryptocurrency mogul, how Brock Pierce ended up as a Jeffrey Epstein guest along with a NASA computer engineer, an MIT professor of electrical engineering, and a Nobel laureate in theoretical physics. Is bizarre tale. Now that then links in with NASA, and of course at the moment we're all seeing these thing about 11, at least 11 NASA scientists suddenly either disappearing or dying or being killed. I suspect that's a deception. I suspect what they're doing is these people are now saying to the government, look, it's all coming out, what we've been doing, fake space exploration. You need to get rid of us and give us new identities, right? Because this is all coming out now, and how we've been defrauding of the masses of billions of pounds, and how it is linking in with the blood of the children in all of this. So a lot of them will be wanting, it could be they're also committing suicide, potentially, but a lot of them will be wanting to be given new identities, okay, and to get hidden because of what's coming out. You may also have some of them trying to speak out, or what they could be doing, you see, is making it seem like some of them have been killed, because then that makes others think they can't talk out about it. Okay, and I think that's definitely going to be a massive part of their control network, and I think this is what happened with the helicopter crash in 2025 with the Siemens CEO from Spain. 3 of his children and his wife supposedly died in a helicopter crash in New York, and I don't believe that happened. I suspect he was in on it, so deep into it that they basically come up with a plan to make people think that there may have been a murder, and then that then helps others to keep people quiet. We've got to ask the question, why am I still alive? There's no way I should be still alive. So either they can't get rid of me because I'm someone important in this, and they can't because of the repercussions to them, or other people have not been unalive when we've been led to believe they have been. Mention that. So we've got the Jeffrey Epstein link into this, okay, which then links back into CERN. I've already done the research. Jeffrey Epstein links almost immediately into the Peter Mandelson inquiry, as you know, straight into it, sorry. Peter Mandelson links to Jeffrey Epstein via the corruption they're telling us about as they're becoming cornered. They have to give some of the exposure. Well, that links to CERN Limited, almost immediately from Peter Mandelson. It links to the Hampstead Child Abuse Inquiry, which has the same MO, okay, of the decapitation of babies and the drinking of the blood of those babies as the 300 children investigation in America back in the 1980s, okay, linking with the Church of Satan, where all over 300 children were all saying the same thing, that they had been sexually abused within a school. And now, as I'm exposing this, they're now threatening, or they're actually creating legislation where they're going to take all of the phones from the children in the school. Now, I think this is very, very worrying, because at the moment, children are able to call for help. They're able to film evidence if anything's happening to them in the school. Okay, if they remove the phones, then they're not going to have that ability. All right, and this, I think, is very, very worrying. And I think this will, tie in with the lockdowns they were doing. And I think the person behind it, I've got their name written down. Is it Julie Griffiths? No. They link into the blood and the crimes against the children. Okay, the person that's actually behind the legislation and running it, taking the phones off the children in school, links to the blood and the crimes of the children, everybody, and the vampirism. So we have to seriously be concerned that these children are going to be at risk from being taken from those schools. Right? I believe the Dunblane massacre was a deception. According to all of my research, I suspect something else happened there. I suspect the massacre didn't happen. I've got the head teachers connected to it, the deputy head teacher, the judge in that case. Was it the police I've investigated? I can't remember. What's his name? Andrew Murray, okay, who managed to survive it but couldn't talk about it. He links to the Satanic Temple. He links to the Church of Satan. This is Andrew Murray via my research in the Company's House records. The whole thing was staged. So therefore, you've got to think, well, what is it they were hiding? Well, the thing they would be hiding is make it look like a massacre, take those children into the trafficking network, steal their blood, okay, from their bodies, steal their organs, and tie that into what they're involved in. That also links to Donald Trump, by the way. Donald Trump, Candace Owens' husband's farmer. It links in with Charlie Kirk via the Dunblane massacre. I've got all of the evidence, everyone. Everything I tell you, I've got the evidence to prove it. Absolutely everything I'm telling you. So what about, where are we? So it's linked to Jeffrey Epstein and a NASA, as we said, a NASA scientist is now tied into this, okay? NASA is one letter short of an anagram of Satan. NASA was created in 1958, the same year that Charles was initiated to become the Prince of Wales. He then became the Prince of Wales in 1969 when NASA was involved in a supposed moon landing. The evidence now suggests that the 3 people that escaped from Alcatraz in 1962 were the 3 astronauts, including Buzz Aldrin. Okay, the evidence is now starting to prove or support that is the case. It's pretty massive, that side of things. Now, I've only done a little bit of the research, but it is starting to appear that was the case, a massive deception. To the point where, so the main Siemens company was incorporated on Company's House 2 weeks to the day after those prisoners escaped from Alcatraz. Okay, the 3 prisoners. This was in 1962, which is the same year as the potential infiltration of the royal family and other key events took place. Then, on the 5th of May last year, Donald Trump comes out and suddenly says they're going to reopen Alcatraz. On that exact same day, the main Siemens company changed its name for the first time since 1962, after I'd exposed its link to Jeffrey Epstein via the Edge Foundation after that helicopter crash that I've just told you about. Okay, they then changed that date because they realized, or they're doing it deliberately, they then changed the change of the date from the 5th of May, which was the same day that Donald Trump made this announcement, to the 1st of May. But I've already screenshotted, I think, I'm pretty sure I've got the evidence, screenshotted, confirming it was the 5th of May. All right, so they then changed it. That's not going to be a coincidence, everybody. All right, the fact that Donald Trump comes out on the same day and mentions Alcatraz, which links to Siemens, and Siemens links to CERN. Siemens links to the Nazi deception, and they're the same age. Buzz Aldrin is the same age, the exact same year as birth as one of the escaped convicts from Alcatraz in 1962. And they look, according to, I've got to verify this, but the images that I've seen from another video look almost identical. And I've done the research from Buzz Aldrin, and it looks as though that links to me. That links back into me from the research of Buzz Aldrin. It's huge. Now, there's a lot more that I've gone into from the Company's House records of that, but I haven't got it in front of me at the moment. Anyway, let me get back to the earthquake, because this is just so important in this. Obviously, this is the biggest threat, it seems, so this is why I'm giving this evidence here. So what about Brock Pierce? Brock Pierce was also mentioned in these articles, tying into the director of X-Men that came out on the exact same day that they activated the relativistic heavy ion collider in New York, a year before the buildings collapsed, the World Trade Center building, the World Trade Center. And here we have Brock, which is Brock Jeffrey Pierce, born 1980s, an American entrepreneur in cryptocurrency industry who co-founded Tether. As a child actor, he starred in the Disney films. So Disney is massively implicated in this, right? Massively implicated in this. The Mighty Ducks, D2, The Mighty Ducks, and The First Kid in 1996. Following acting, Pierce was involved in online gaming platforms, including Digital Entertainment Network and Internet Gaming Entertainment. In 2001, he founded Internet Gaming Entertainment, IGE, a company that pioneered MMORPG currency, selling services industry. Percy brought in Steve Bannon, formerly of Goldman Sachs, and Brett Bait News. Pierce founded ZAM, a network of websites orientated around massively multiplayer online role-playing games, such as World of Warcraft, Star Wars, The Old Republic, Rift, EverQuest, etc. Titan Gaming purchased the online gaming network Xfire and Viacom. In October 2011, after Xfire received over $4 million in fresh funding from Intel Capital, Titan Gaming Xfire cut ties to begin operating independently. That is the same month, October 2011, the same month that that Jimmy Savile supposedly died. In the early 2010s, Pierce assisted Jeffrey Epstein to invest various companies in the cryptocurrency space, including Coinbase. He was the founder of Cryptocurrency Partners. He sought funds which he would then channel the investment through his involvement in Cryptocurrency Partners, which would later become Blockchain Capital. Their decades-long involvement was made public in 2026 with the release of the Epstein files. In late April 2012, Titan Gaming announced that it would be rebranded as PlayCino, with Pierce as the new CEO and $1.5 million of new funding in 2010. This was the same month that Jeffrey Epstein held a meeting with CERN scientists and Stephen Hawking. Titan Gaming recruited Pierce to sit on its board, along with EA executive Keith McCurdy. This is the month that Jeffrey Epstein, as I said, appears to have held a meeting. Pierce ran an independent candidate in the 2020 United States presidential election. Just having a look at the comments. How does he remember all of this? I'm reading from my my evidence. So basically what I've got here is, okay, so it's all written down. So this is all taken with the links. Why doesn't it let me scroll it? Oh, it's because it's on a screenshot. Oh, sugar. So you can see all those screenshots there. That's what I'm reading from. So that's my document. Well, it's my notes actually. It's going to go into the document, and within notes are the links into all the evidence each time. So, for example, where is it? There you go. You can see a link there into the Companies House record. So as I'm reading the evidence, it can be verified by clicking on the link and following my guidance to confirm all of the evidence as we're going through. This is going to end the entire system, everybody. All right, this is going to bring heaven on earth, providing everybody gets behind me and gets behind this evidence. Now, I can't do it myself. You can't expect me to do absolutely everything. Some people are saying I need to go and do the arrests, and you know that's something I have to seriously consider. But you don't have a warrant out against your arrest, most of you. Most of you can go and form groups. I can't meet anybody because of the risks, because I need to continue the exposure and build the evidence. All right? I have to maintain the protection of the evidence, the protection of me being able to continue to expose this. Because one day, hopefully, all of these people are going to be held accountable. All right? We're not going to be able to do that without the evidence to support it. So I need to be able to ensure that I am producing the evidence, exposing the whole lot, and they'll be watching this and they'll know that it's up. Okay, the game's up. And all the time nobody's doing anything, you're giving them time to decide on how they resolve this to suit them, which means it's not going to suit you. And it actually means that you're probably all in very serious danger because of this. Now, you won't be if you follow the strategy, because there's nothing they can do. It removes the power from them. There's absolutely nothing they will be able to do about it if you follow my strategy. But you need to follow my strategy, to, according to all of my evidence, to save yourselves, to save the families, save other children as well. This isn't just about me, and being selfish. You know, you need to be thinking about the evidence I'm giving you of children potentially being skinned alive. You should all literally be out there now making arrests. Now, they are even telling you, without my evidence, they're telling you, not to quite the extent that I am, that they're telling you they're involved in the crimes against the children. And yet nobody's doing anything. Now, if there is an end of world event, you know, you've got to be willing to face the consequences. If you're not going to be willing to do anything about this, with all of this evidence, then there's probably no hope for any of you, unfortunately. You know, and you're not just talking about, I honestly believe you're talking about an eternal consequence for humanity if this isn't dealt with in the right way. I honestly think that's going to be the case. Now, I'm trying my absolute best to save everybody in this. But there's only so much I can do. I'm one man. You know, I'm not superhuman. Even if I am some sort of potential bloodline in all of this, that doesn't mean I'm going to be able to do this all by myself. It could mean I'm just here to give you the evidence and let you decide how this plays out. Oh my goodness, right. So much evidence. So, Reese, where did we get to? So I've just got to find my... Oh, yeah, so we got... Oh, yeah. So we've got April 2012. The gaming industry is a massive part of this. Now, why is this so big to them? Well, obviously, you've got the currency connection to it and the money, but also it gives them the ability to use their technology against the innocents for control, potentially causing health issues as well, but most definitely a way of, through subliminal messages, whether it be through sound and whether it be through vision, to actually control individuals and stop people ascending, to cause depression potentially, and even program people's minds through that technology. And this is very, very simple to explain how this is easily done. If you were to be engrossed in a movie, for example, or a games console, if you flicker an image quick enough, your subconscious will take it in, but not your conscious. So you won't realize that image is there, and it could be saying anything, okay, to program your mind, because your subconscious has taken it in. Your brain will register it, but not, in your forefront of your mind. Now, the same thing will be possible with sound, okay? More difficult with sound, I think, to do it, but it looks as though they've honed the technology to be able to do that, which is probably why people are hearing a lot of, I can hear it now, ringing in my ears, but I don't seem to be susceptible to whatever it is they're doing. So if you are listening to your normal surroundings and they create a frequency that is in the background, you don't pick up consciously, but you do subconsciously, that can also be used as a way of programming your mind. And it could be anything, they could be programming you anything. Now, it's much harder to get away from a sound, isn't it? At least with your eyes, you can choose what you're looking at generally. So if you know it's a phone and they're visually trying to program you, can avoid that. But through the sound, it's very difficult. So I think they have initially started this with the visual side of things, which is why television is so important. The television connects into the bloodstock trade, all right, and the crimes against the children, all right. So this was planned a very, very long time ago. This is why we've got everything on our phones now, anything on our devices, because I think they were focusing on the visual programming, but now it looks as though they have acquired the ability to program through sound frequencies. And I think this is why you're going to be seeing, or I think this is why the cell towers are very, very relevant in all of this, and why they went up around the lockdown period overnight. Not overnight, but a lot of the time it was overnight. Oh, I keep deviating away, sorry. Got 89 people on here. So, Ukrainian Jewish community sources have linked Pierce to post-war reconstruction and educational projects in Ukraine. Pierce has also been associated with privately organized conferences focused on Ukraine's post-war reconstruction. The Ukraine Reconstruction Summit in 2025, held at MGM National Harbor near Washington, D.C., describes itself as a forum for government officials, corporate executives, and investors to discuss multi-billion-dollar reconstruction and investment projects in Ukraine and the wider region. So what they will be doing is they're working collaboratively. So Russia is working with Ukraine, with all of the other governments, the other organizations, and deceiving all of you. And through that conflict deception, they can then launder monies. They'll be stealing money from you through the taxes and other financial institutions, sending it into offshore accounts to hide it, and then it comes back into their lifestyle. Okay, this is what they will be doing. All right, 100%. 100%, everybody. Trillions. You're talking multi-trillions of pounds over the last few decades. Referring back to Singer, so the director of the X-Men that came out on the exact same day that the relativistic heavy ion collider was activated in New York, and it was actually shown in New York as well. Bad Hat Harry Limited. Remember, he had Bad Hat Harry Productions, or I think it was Bad Hat Harry. Bad Hat Harry Limited comes up, and it had been incorporated as Nice Hat Harry in 2013 after CERN had discovered the Higgs boson, a God particle. It is shown as being in the process of liquidation, so they're shutting it down. Begbie Trainers is shown as the registered address which links immediately to JP Morgan, which means the Flemings, and it means a direct connection via Begbie Trainers to a Collider company, which links to a solicitors called T.G. Baines in Bexley Heath near London. The filing history shows an application was made to strike the company from the register in October 2022. As I escalated the inquiries at Exbourne Manor, and an interfaith meeting took place with the Pope, linking to Christchurch, an address in Christchurch where on a Companies House record linked to Jeff Bezos, where I was living, not the address but the town where I was living and working in the police. Immediately, Nigel John Priest is in the People record. A separate search shows Nigel Priest connects to Greenwood Audio Visual Limited that had been incorporated in March 2008, the exact same month that the Ninth Circle movie was released, which links to My Dreams and to the Collider Technology Collider Control Panel, the Large Hadron Collider. It had same-day company services on its incorporation document that makes the links to Wildman and Patel back into the to the Robert Kennedy, John F. Kennedy's relation, to Jimmy Savile, to Exbourne Manor, to the Royals and major areas of the criminal network as shown elsewhere, immediately from that research. Regarding digital entertainment network that ties into these other individuals, in relation to Mark John Colin Rector, a company of the same name was incorporated in 2016 after the Pizzagate scandal had been exposed, and it dissolved in February 2019 on the lead up to the Assange's and Jeffrey Epstein's arrest and the COVID deception. It has the formationscompany.com on its incorporation document, making the connection to the research of world leaders, including Donald Trump, including Benjamin Netanyahu, including the leader of Iran, the leader of Saudi Arabia and others, all connecting to Fleming Co. Limited. Also directly to a halal limited company, with halal relating to the Islamic faith and the possible draining of blood from animals and the illegally harvesting it from humans and transfusing the blood of the refined blood of animals into the bodies to steal the bodies from the humans, to steal the blood from the humans, as shown throughout the research. Let me just put that in perspective. You have a halal company connecting to Benjamin Netanyahu, who claims to be a Jew, to Donald Trump, who claims to be, I presume, a Christian. I'm not too sure what he claims to be, and linking to the former leader of because the most recent, we had the death, didn't we? Supposedly, that's a lie. All of those three Abrahamic faiths connecting to a halal company and to Fleming Co. Limited. Not only that, from Fleming Co. Limited, it connects from formationscompany.com. It connects to an organisation called LegalZoom. LegalZoom is an online virtual legal company. That means there is no accountability and liability in relation to the legal assistance they may be acquiring. Okay, there's no accountability and liability at all. That was started in 2001, the same year as the World Trade Center disaster, the same year as the new high priest of the Church of Satan. The few days before the World Trade Center disaster, on the 1st of September 2001, they repealed the Genocide Act in England. In other words, they got rid of the Genocide Act, okay, on the 1st of September 2001, 10 days before the World Trade Center disaster. They then repealed the Genocide Act in Scotland on the 17th of September 2001. No Genocide Act. So, in other words, there's no offence of genocide, okay, either side of the World Trade Center disaster. Within the Genocide Act, there was a bit in there that says people cannot take children, or worse, the effect of cannot take children from times of international conflict. So it gives them the ability now, or they believe it removes that accountability even more. Now, the high priest of the Church of Satan was then positioned in 2001, which links to the blood of the children. Now, unfortunately, the blood of the children linking into the satanic element massively links with Christianity, all right? To the point where it's almost obvious they've infiltrated Christianity and every other faith group to implement the blood of the children into that. And I think this is why you have the Eurochrist, which I think is an absolute abomination of Christianity, drinking the blood of Christ and eating the body of Christ. Why would you do that? I think they've deliberately implemented that within Christianity to implement the blood element in relation to the children. The absolute mockery of Christ, the complete mockery, goes completely against love thy neighbor, thou shalt not kill. A satanic infiltration of all of the Abrahamic faiths, if not the actual creation of a lot of the scripture within those faiths. However, you've got to say, love thy neighbor. If that's still part of one of the scriptures or all of them, then that goes against everything that they're doing. So that must be, we know that must be the inherent creator given foundation for everything. Love thy neighbor, treat everybody how you want to be treated if you're in a rational state of mind. That means none of this would have ever happened. So that means we know they've gone against it. So that means we know it's not of the creator. We know it's not of the creator. In relation to Titan Gaming mentioned, Titan Gaming Limited had been incorporated in August 2020. It dissolved on the 13th of September 2022, 5 days after the Queen's apparent death, and as are escalated inquiries at Expo Manor. It has companies made simple on its incorporation document, making the link to the paedophile information exchange and the World Trade Center disaster and major areas of the criminal network. The date of the activation of the relativistic heavy iron collider, okay, is also classed as Russia Day. You couldn't write this, could you? Bearing in mind we had the activation of Hera, you had the Russian coup. We now have Russia Day, having been positioned as the same day as the relativistic heavy iron collider was activated. Okay, now this now tells us that Russia, or supports the other evidence that Russia has a massive hand to play in the blood of the children, in the evidence of the satanic cult in all of this. It says here Russian Day, called Day of Adoption. Interesting, Day of Adoption. I actually suspect that does relate to false adoption and stealing of children through criminal fraudery, because the former Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev and Reza Gorbachev, were involved in the research. You can see the transfusion of blood in relation to children. It's all there, everybody. It's all there. It's all being secured as well. Before 2002 is the national holiday of Russia. It has been celebrated annually on the 12th of June. Now, it says since 1992, okay, but the initial research suggests it was 12th of June, 1992, and then that's the same day that the relatively heavy iron collider was activated in 2000. But 1992, okay, which is when this first started, is the year that the Catholic Church became a legal entity, and that the Companies House records started to become electronic, which is how I identified the international government fraud, via the discrepancy between the electronic record and the incorporation documents, which they could have forged much, much easier. For whatever reason, they've left a trail of evidence for the right person to expose the entire thing. The day commemorates the adoption of the Declaration of State Sovereignty of the Russian Soviet Federate Socialist Republic on the 12th of June 1990 originally. The first passage of this declaration by the First Congress of People's Deputies marked the beginning of the constitutional reform in the Russian Soviet state, culminating in the outright independence in 1991. As we've said, the country's new name, the Russian Federation, was adopted on the 25th of December 1991. It's the same year that my favourite movie, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, came out, which links to Ingenious Film Partners on the incorporation document of the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales, which also links to, by the way, I forgot to say earlier, the LegalZoom company, which links via the formationscompany.com that I just told you about, on the Halal company, linking with this other company we just talked about. That also links to Ingenious Film Partners too, via the research, which means it links to me. Russia have just celebrated Russia Day. That's interesting because it says it should be that date I've just told you about. That's what the research says. It should be that date, which was June. We're not in June yet. That's interesting. I wonder if they're trying to change it because they're realizing it's coming out. It's all documented. Same with having to rewire electric cables in houses in order to be able to use their sound frequency technology. Yes, yeah, absolutely. Why do you think they're putting smart meters into people's homes? And people that rent have no choice. They're forcing smart meters into people's homes. I suspect because of what I'm talking about. Now, sound frequency, it's a known fact it can cause harm. If the frequency is the right frequency, it can not only be used to program, it can actually cause harm. Now, I suspect what's happened is going back over the last 150 years, starting with whatever it was, RF frequency, radio frequency, radar, leading into 1G, 2G, 3G. I suspect what's happened is they've been trying to use the sound frequencies to program humanity as they've released that. But you'll see there's a correlation between the publication of viruses. Now, it's possible that they're trying to tweak their technology for programming, and they're actually harming people to too much of an extent. It becomes too obvious. So they therefore have to say that it is a virus. And of course, by creating the illness or having the ability to create illness through that as well means you get people into the hospitals. Now, if you get people into the hospitals and you say it's a virus or an illness, it gives them the ability to take the blood from you. Okay. This also provides a motive to cause cancer, to actually give cancer to people through the technology, through the poisoning, etc. Because when people go into hospital with cancers, they generally have to have a lot of blood taken from them, and sometimes there are full body transfusions that take place, which means then the blood drained from the animals that's been refined through the halal Islamic faith side of things can then be used in that stealing of the blood. That's interesting. Thank you, Jacqueline. Yeah, someone's put it's just been on the news and on YouTube. That's interesting. That's very interesting. So they're trying to. They probably, do you know what? They're probably watching my research. If it was literally on in the last couple of days or day or so, then they'll be seeing what I'm researching. So they're quite possibly realizing, oh dear, we need to do something here, and they're changing things around. This is why they changed the date of but I've screenshotted it already. The date in May, in relation to the change of the name change for the main Siemens company. May the 9th, Victory Day in Russia. They are celebrating today. Oh, Victory Day. Okay, yeah. There's a different day which is called Russia Day, which they celebrate in, I think it was June, wasn't it, the date? That's interesting though, isn't it? The timing of that. As the truth is better to know than simply believe. So it is. Hi, Gary. As the truth is better to know that simply believe. So it is. So it is to use than simply have. Yeah, absolutely. There's no point just having the information, is there? Once you have the information, then you have a moral. I believe there's a moral obligation on people to do what's right in this, and doing nothing is not what's right. And I think you could all say that. If I was to ask you all now, is it right for you all to do nothing in this situation? Most of you would agree no. So therefore, you need to be doing something. There is more of us than them, someone's put. Yep. PC Waffleman, let's get rid of you. Same person that keeps creating PC Watermans. Time for the vampire ball to end. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. This can't carry on, everybody. Did I have shots? Yeah, I had. Sadly, I believed absolutely everything until I started finding the evidence of this. So I had, I think it was 2 injections. Hi, Julie. Sorry, I'm just looking back over comments. Thanks, XX. Appreciate your comment. But thank you so much, Gary. We all have to get involved in some way to stop this evil. Yeah, absolutely right. Empower those fighting for truth. Someone's put. Someone's put, I woke up in 2020. Yeah, no, I believed absolutely everything. You know, I had no idea what was going. Even when I was in the police for 18 years, I didn't know, you know, the level of corruption that was going on in the background. Now it's obvious that the police were actually set up specifically, as were every government organisation you've got. It was all set up around this fraud. The oldest English private bank is called C. Hoare, I think it is. The father of that, the founder of that, from I think it was 17 something, was a horse bloodstock trader. So right back then, it was about the blood. This has been going on for a very long time, the blood side of things. Gordon Bowden, so his paperwork, and I'm sure there's copies somewhere. There's actually a website for him where people are still running it. Someone's asked what happened to his paperwork. He gave copies of it to the BBC, didn't he? Now, it's interesting. He would have known about the fraud. I mean, there's no way you can do that level of research in Companies House and not identify the forgery. And yet he didn't expose the forgery. All he was exposing was the non-verification element, where an address was being used to register loads of companies. So it could be he was actually put there as a deception, because there's no way you can spend that long looking at what he was uncovering and not realize that the incorporation document doesn't match the register. So that suggests that potentially he was positioned there. So with having 2 shots, you are at risk. Well, it depends, because I actually don't believe the shots. Now I think they've laced some of the shots to make it seem like that, but they would have also used a lot of actors. I suspect that it's not the shots. The evidence is overwhelming. This is why you've got people claiming it's the shots that won't expose the fraud, and you've actually got people claiming it's the shots who are linked to the shots. All right, and none of them are assisting me in exposing the fraud, even though the obvious evidence is there that they are criminal vaccine companies. That would be the absolute best evidence you could ever have to expose the vaccines. They're not using it, they're refusing. Do not fear solicitors. I sued one and won. They are criminal liars. Someone's put, I do it out on the street. Info provisions to the propaganda general public in hand copy to take home and verify. Out again today as usual. Yeah, but the more people that do it, it applies the pressure to the system. But really, you need arrest to take place. I don't know. Someone asked who John Hassis is. I don't know who John Hassis is. I would not trust anyone that's not talking about the Companies House fraud. It's really quite that. It's quite that obvious now. This is the absolute key, and you're going to see. I'm going to carry on, because you can absolutely make arrests. Everyone has the power to make an arrest. You don't. It doesn't mean holding on to people. It doesn't mean handcuffing people. Okay. Most of the people that I arrested didn't even need to use any force whatsoever. It's just about communication. It's exactly the same. You're only talking about solicitors. You're not talking about people that are going to be drunk and be wanting to fight you. All right. These are people sat in an office who are normally quite well spoken, who will be on the back foot. Okay. As soon as you start talking about they're being arrested, it's going to create a ripple right the way through the system. This is what is needed. Nobody else is providing a suitable explanation. Nobody. Everybody can make arrests. Everybody can make arrests. You just need to give the police a chance to do the right thing. Come along and take them. If they don't, then you expose the police and you explain that and you video the whole lot. All right? Very, very simple. Exposure, exposure, exposure of the arrests with the right words. 2012 was the apparent end of the Mayan calendar, and speculation was that the world may end with a black hole forming at the center of the galaxy, or Earth being struck by Planet X or Nibiru. Interesting. Planet X. X again. On the 4th of July 2012, CERN claims to have discovered the God particle. In relation to the earthquake on this date, the following information is revealed. While 2012 was a year of major earthquakes, including the April the 11th Sumatran magnitude 8.6, July the 4th was relatively quiet compared to other dates in 2012, with no major earthquakes recorded on that specific day, according to Wikipedia and a particular website. April the 19th is when an apparent meeting took, so this was on, you had a massive earthquake April the 11th, okay, that year. April the 19th, 8 days later, is when an apparent meeting took place with Jeffrey Epstein, Stephen Hawking, and CERN scientists. Research on whether CERN was conducting an experiment on that date in April says in April 2012, CERN was actively operating the Large Hadron Collider to collect data for the search for the Higgs boson, which was officially announced as discovered on July the 4th, 2012. Right? Listen to how they're wording this. Right? So let me just go through this again. Massive earthquake, April the 11th, 2012. Meeting takes place with Jeffrey Epstein, Stephen Hawking, and CERN scientists 8 days later. On the 19th, when an apparent research on whether CERN was conducting an experiment that day, it says in April 2012, CERN was actively operating the Large Hadron Collider to collect data for the search for the Higgs boson, which was then officially announced as discovered on the 4th of July. All right. To me, it looks as though they may have actually conducted and done something big on April the 11th when this earthquake occurred. Now, while it goes on, it says, while the major announcement happened in July, the collider was running experiments, including proton-to-proton collisions at high energy in April 2012 to accumulate the necessary data. Notice how they're wording it? Interesting, hey? So what this looks as though may have happened, we have to consider that earthquake could be connected to this, because there's loads of other research. And I'll just give you another bit of an example, which I haven't got written here. So in August 2016, okay, you had an apparent ritual took place at the Shiva statue at CERN in Geneva, which represents, as I've said, creation and destruction. This is after the Pizzagate scandal started to be exposed that year, okay, which links to Hillary Clinton and the apparent skinning of children alive, okay, and the murdering of children, all right, linking with our governments, with the American government. I've now linked that directly into all of this research, okay, into my wife's family, okay, the same companies linking in with the Virgin Foundation and some other stuff. 3 months after that ritual took place, an article is released. What did it say? I'm trying to remember what it said. I think, yeah, it was an article saying that people were concerned that CERN was causing earthquakes on the continent. Okay? 3 months later, there was an actual article. So in, I think it was Italy or France, I can't remember, there's an article. Then they come out and they used 2 scientists, I can't remember what year it was, got it written down, to do a seismic activity test to try and downplay the risks of CERN causing those earthquakes. The 2 people they used, I've researched through the Company's House records, and it links straight in to the crimes against the children and everything I'm exposing, okay? Not only that, the newspaper that publicised that, look, we've got 2 scientists that are doing this and they're showing that there is no risk, was the paper linked directly to Klaus Schwab, the head of the chair of the World Economic Forum, that links to the same year, 1971, that Stephen Hawking came out with the Hawkins radiation theory. Okay, that paper, that same paper, links to Export Manor Freehold Limited via the research. Okay, the exact same paper that publicised that, and some other key areas. Now remember, he's also linked to Sony, and Sony is connected to the German Democratic Republic organization I mentioned earlier, and we're going to come to that later as we go in the earthquakes. Remember, Church of Satan was named after a German knight, linking to Christianity. So we have this massive earthquake, April the 11th, 2012. 8 days later, we have this meeting. They then announce. Now, I've been thinking, okay, well, that's when it happened, but that's when they announced that they discovered the Higgs boson and God particle. The end of the Mayan calendar was that same year, which they claimed could cause the end of the world through a black hole suddenly appearing. And here we have Stephen Hawking trying to create a black hole, it seems, on the very day that the Mayan calendar ended. Even though in 1991, when the relativistic heavy ion collider started to be built, people were coming out and saying it's going to cause a black hole. And yet they still went ahead and built all of this technology, linking to the blood of children, of babies and children, and decapitation of babies from the research, and the satanic temple. Satanism, the inversion of creation. The only way you can ultimately completely invert creation, the ultimate mockery to the creator, is by creating a point of singularity, to create the end of time, a black hole, the opposite of the expansion of the universe, which is what Stephen Hawking was studying, linked to 1966, the same year as the foundation of the Church of Satan. And then the destruction, which links back into the Shiva statue and the ritual that took place in August 2016. Here is the list. Did I say that bit? Here's a list of some of the other things that happened on the 4th of July. Now, what I need to do is go back and see what else happened on the 11th of April, because I now suspect, and I'm going to find more evidence on this, I'm sure, that CERN is going to have created that earthquake on the 11th of April. Now, on the date of the 4th of July, though, these are the other things that happened. Armed conflicts, attacks, so Syrian uprising was really taking place. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad accuses neighbouring Turkey of supporting terrorists. I'm just reading you what the list. A gunman who was facing eviction from his apartment. That's not really going to be relative. 11 people are killed in further unrest in Iraq. China accuses the Vatican of obstructing the development of the Catholicism after the latter threatens to excommunicate new bishops ordained. Very possibly relevant. Okay, China's all in on this. Okay, they're all working on this together, everybody. A fact. All governments around the world, it's been set up 700 years ago, the Reformation, linking into the blood of the children, okay, linking to the creation of the governments. This has all been planned. They're all in on it. The control of the information began right back then with Gutenberg's, a German company. And that German company was rapidly printing religious material and material in relation to the governments, and Gutenberg, via the research, through a chain of evidence, very quickly leads to Export Manor Freehold Limited and DNA equals X that they created in 2023, after they knew I was starting to expose the government fraud. DNA equals X. X-born manor. Invert that. Born X. Bloodline of Christ. X. The hooked X, linking to the Knights Templar and linking to the Roslin Chapel in Edinburgh. So we have China accused us. We have British broadcaster George Entwistle is named as the next Director General of the BBC, beginning in autumn. That's possibly very relevant because the BBC links directly into the Vatican and into the Collider technology. Archaeologists in Israel discover a mosaic floor depicting the biblical figure of Samson. This is on the 4th of July when I thought they claimed to have discovered it. It wasn't. That's just when they publicised it. Now we know very likely whatever happened on the 11th of April, a Hebrew inscription on an ancient synagogue. Interesting, could be relevant. Business and economy, Libor interbank interest rate. I'm just having a quick read through. I won't read. This is probably Chancellor George Osborne accuses ministers in Gordon Brown's government of attempting to manipulate interest rates during the recession. George Osborne, I'm pretty sure, is going to be linking to the Osborne family connection, going back into the bloodline of Christ via, it ties into Queen Victoria, who links to the, I believe, the House of Stuart, who claim to be the bloodline of Christ. Now, Osborne becomes relevant to the death of Queen Victoria, who died in Osborne House on the Isle of Wight in 1901, the same year that the White House came in America, was called the White House. Okay, the White House Limited Company connects to the Isle of Wight and makes the connections to the American government as well, and links to the Flemings via the research. Now remember, Hampshire in the south of England is so critical in all of this international government fraud because of the Portals Company that was founded in 1711 in Hampshire, which started to create or move towards the creation of the world currency control. They became the producer for the Bank of England in 1724. They were then purchased by De La Rue in 1995, the same year that the intelligence agency and Russian government company, the Hackler International Advisory Board Company, on page 40 of the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales that connects most areas to the fraud, was also incorporated. And that has dissolved since I've exposed it. That dissolved in 2024. Now, of course, by being behind the world's currency production, that's given them the ability to buy everything you see, to manipulate the entire world through the creation of the cash. And at the same time, so when De La Rue, and actually going back to Portals, when Portals was really starting to, produce all of this cash, this is when you had the factory, the world's largest factory in Sittingbourne in Kent, producing the Varney the Vampire. What were they called? And we actually come to it in my research. What are they called? But the Penny Dreadfuls. The Penny Dreadfuls. Which links to Frankenstein as well. And Mary Shelley was buried in Bournemouth, where my investigation began. So Chancellor Osborne, we have Standard & Poor's raises Egyptian officials deny that newly elected Egyptian President Mohamed Morale will visit Iran to attend a conference. Possibly, I would think, relative. 2 Iranian suspects held by Kenya police reportedly confessed that they plan to detonate a series of 30 bombs simultaneously across Kenya. The Qatari-owned satellite channel Jazeera reports that traces of radioactive polonium have been found in some personal effects of former PLO chairman Yasser Arafat, who died in 2004. We're going to come to that later. Spain's National Court opens a criminal investigation into last year's listing of the banking SAA of the stock market. Hundreds of protesters clashed with police in Ukrainian capital of Kyiv, and the parliament speaker offers to resign. The Chinese city of Shifang conceals the planned development of a copper plant. The European Parliament rejects an anti-counterfeiting trade. Interesting, with what we were talking about it. The European Parliament rejects the anti-counterfeiting trade agreement in a session with more than 470 votes against the treaty. Interesting. Mexican general election 2012, over half of the ballot boxes in the presidential election will have to be recounted following the discovery of voting irregularities. Palestinians in Ramallah protest outside the office of Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas against 1993 Oslo peace accords between Israel and the PLO. CERN, obviously, as we said, scientists present recent results. Interesting. CMS and Atlas bought the Scottish Premier League. So there's some interesting things there that could be relevant. Okay, now, on the 26th of December 2004, this is important. 26th of December 2004, local time, an earthquake struck with its epicenter off the coast of Aceh in northern Sumatra, Indonesia. The undersea megathrust earthquake, known in the scientific community as the Sumatra Andaman earthquake, was caused by a rupture along the fault boundary between the Burma Plate and the Indian Plate, and reached a maximum Muchali intensity of IX again. It's a different earthquake, isn't it? Yeah, IX again. See, this could be symbology tying into the bloodline of Christ and all of this. Going, I'll carry on. In some areas, the earthquake caused a massive tsunami with waves up to 30 meters high. And as you know, that's the massive tsunami and earthquake that killed 227, nearly 228,000 people in 14 countries, according to what they're telling us. A search on whether CERN conducted an experiment at the time of the earthquake reveals no, CERN did not conduct a specific, widely recognized experiment on December the 26th. What an interesting way of wording it. All right, it's no, CERN did not conduct a specific, widely recognized experiment on December the 26th, 2004. And then they put afterwards, that is linked to major events like the 2004 tsunami. Interesting wording, isn't it? I mean, that was just what came up on the result. But I just find that very, very suspicious. It goes on to say the Large Hadron Collider was under construction in 2004 and only began operations in 2008, meaning it could not have caused such an event. CERN was celebrating this is critical, celebrating its 50th anniversary in 2004. Okay, so CERN was founded originally in 1954, the year after the Queen was positioned. Okay, which she's part of the satanic element. 100% she's going to be part of this, and that's the same year that the MK Ultra program began. Okay, when she became the Queen, that's the mass non-consensual experimentation on humanity. CERN, founded 1954, the same time that Slaughter and May, a company called Slaughter and May, was incorporated on Companies House, which is a criminal organization. Slaughter of the people in May. May appears to be a month that they love to do potentially bad things against people. Now, that fat company, although that was incorporated in 1954, it was originally founded in 1898? No, sorry, it was 1889, I think. I think it was 1889, which is 100 years exactly before the World Wide Web was created for CERN by Tim Berners-Lee, which links to the Flemings. Tim Berners-Lee was living in Wimborne, okay, which in Dorset, and so is my wife's best friend, one of her best friends supposedly, which is Leanne Witcher, or Leanne Hawksworth, as her name was, works for Siemens. She works for Siemens, which means she links to the Nazi regime via that organization. Now, all of these people, none of them helped me when I was trying to expose this. All of them blocked me. These are all people connected to key areas of all of this. Now, it's possible, as I've said, all of this is a deception because of who I am, or potentially in this, and who the evidence suggests that I could be. But I still have to perceive all of these risks to be real. Now, they've told us these earthquakes are real. Now, this could be, Leanne told me that her brother was in Christchurch at the time of that earthquake in New Zealand. Christchurch is twinned with the Christchurch that I was working in after Bournemouth and where we were living. X-Church, X representing Bloodline of Christ. In 2010, the year before the earthquake happened, we moved to Christchurch. We then went that year to New Zealand in a camper van for 3.5 weeks. We travelled around New Zealand. We went from Auckland. Ended up in Christchurch. On our travels, we happened to bump into Caroline Gould, who was my colleague from Dorset Police. It ended up she was the one that I was liaising with during my initial inquiries of this criminal network within the police, because I'd left the police at that point. So I was liaising with Caroline Gould in Dorset Police, who was on the Economic Crime Unit, was being overseen by Sam De Rea. The De Reas linked to the Vatican. The De Reas linked to the Church of England. The De Reas linked to the royal family. They linked to the death of Jill Dando. So this was all staged. Okay. When they started companies, Exborn Manor Freehold Limited, Exborn or Born X, it was an introduction. Okay, they introduced me to that building. They introduced me to my wife. It was all staged. That same year, they created Exborn Manor. And Anthony De Rea is on the incorporation document that started that company up. Okay, I didn't join the company until 2 years later. De Rea links to the Vatican. De Rea links to the Vatican. The other person that was on the incorporation document, Diana Betts. Diana Betts is a phlebotomist within the NHS. In other words, involved in the blood. Sam De Rea was later overseeing the department I've just told you about. Okay, who oversees the Economic Crime Unit. They then moved Sam De Rea. They moved Scott Chilton, the Chief Constable. The head of the council resigned, Drew Meller. The head of the Independent Office of Police Conduct moved. The head of the Serious Fraud Office moved. So I sound like a cow there. Moved. Right, so interesting wording, but it gets more interesting. Now that is the 50th anniversary of CERN. They're involved in satanic, blood-taking, murdering of babies and children. I don't believe for a second that they would not have done something on the 50th anniversary of something that is so important to them as CERN. I don't believe that. Okay, these people would have done something on that date. And we now have to consider that there was possibly something to do with that earthquake in 2004. A search for Indonesian earthquake on Company's House or through Google reveals International Society of Earthquake Precursors that had been incorporated on the 5th of June 2007, almost a month to the day after Madeleine McCann went missing, before its name was changed 2 months later, just over 2 weeks before Exborn Manor Freehold Limited was incorporated. It dissolved on the 19th of August 2025 last year, a month to the day before they staged my arrest. It has a registered address of Potter's Bar featured throughout the research, and it has company registrations online on its incorporation document, which we'll come to in a minute. This is a company called, let me just reiterate that again, the Society of Earthquake Precursors. The filing history shows the Potter's Bar address had been removed on the 25th of April 2012, 6 days after Epstein's meeting with CERN scientists, and they then reinstated the address in April 2025. Remember, I said company registrations online is on its incorporation document. Company registrations online is shown throughout the research, and it connects directly to Owens and Porter, the management company of Exborn Manor Freehold Limited, at the time of my initial inquiries at Exbourne Manor, and they link to the Russian government via Stephen Owens. It links to the children's welfare companies from the rapid response teams, the research of the rapid response members who made the threat to steal my homes and who connect to my school via the research of my school via Knights Templar building and Waterman's offshore companies that then go to Olympic Games companies, link to David Beckham, and then connect to the research of the rapid response. It connects to Richard Knighton, who I already mentioned earlier, who was positioned as the head of the military last year as I continued the exposure via an immigration company. To evergreen companies, connecting quickly to the research of Charles Dickens, stemming from the research of the Chinese leaders. To Tommy Robinson via the English Defence League. To Hollywood directors such as Ridley Scott's companies via my mother's employer. To Hunter Biden, the son of Joe Biden. To Stephen Fry and the Mind Group linked to the historical child abuse again at the Feversham School. To Bernard Matthews and PIE companies that I suspect refers to the paedophile information exchange. From the research of Nick Goodwin, the head of the UK court system. To Ellen DeGeneres, who had a talk show in America, who started that talk show, I think it was 2003. She stopped it in 2022, the exact same year that I started exposing the international government fraud. She then moved to England in Swindon, okay, in 2024 as I continued the exposure. And then as I continued it even more, in 2025, in July, she moved house. Her partner or wife, Portia de Rossi, I think it is into horse racing or horse riding. The horse riding industry links to the bloodstock industry and therefore the blood of the children being used or hidden within that network, the bloodstock trade. It connects to the research of Julian Assange and the Doomsday Cult again, which connects to the chief police officers of the United Kingdom, connects to my father-in-law's, financial advisor immediately via the research of Julian Assange, and to the police and crime commissioners, David Sidgwick for Dorset, and to Deborah Fleming, literally to Deborah Fleming on the records for her name, who was the person that initiated my removal from Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited. It connects to Donald Trump's son-in-law in the research of the White House coup, where supposedly somebody died, one person died, I believe, to the research of the Church of Satan via Prada. And remember, you've got Devils Wear Prada, which links into the Prada organization, which is leather goods, which ties back into the skin of the innocents, to Louis Vuitton as well, and to the Savile Row evidence that I've already acquired, and the Red Shoe Club, and the evidence of Prince Harry wearing Madeleine McCann's skin at the time of Jeffrey Epstein's arrest in 2019. To the research of the child abuse scandal in York regarding a David Crowley, same surname as Aleister Crowley, and to the International Society for Earthquake precursors, as I've just said. Earthquake UK Limited had been incorporated on the 1st of July 2002, almost a year to the day after the lease for the World Trade Center was acquired by Larry Silverstein. It dissolved in February 2019 and has an address of Monk Street. Sean Kavanagh is on the incorporation document and is shown as being linked to various companies, including Company Formations International and CFI companies. The filing history shows that on the 14th of July 2017, Earthquake Jersey Limited ceased to be a company of significant control. Jersey appears to be significant to the crimes against children, linking to the government and to royalty. John Fitzgerald connects Earthquake UK Limited to 6 companies, including St Thomas Placement Limited, where they had been appointed in 2003 and resigned on the 13th of June 2012, 3 weeks before CERN claims to have discovered the God particle. The company had been incorporated in April 2001 on the lead up to the World Trade Center disaster, and the company had been incorporated and dissolved on the 13th of June 2012. Eversheds is on the incorporation document linking to police organizations, a doomsday cult, the blood of tortured children, and the information regarding the Church of Satan and the Vatican. Matthew David Stevens connects St Thomas Placement Limited to Magna Trust that had been incorporated in 1998 and has a registered address of Templeborough offices. Paul Nicholas Hurst connects Magna, this company, to 21, including various DLA companies, Brabner's LLP, Mitchell Irwin, making the connection to Fieldfisher, who has the contract for the BBC, and it links to the Royals, the De Reyes, the currency producer, the Vatican, Sweeney Todd Group, the death of Jill Dando, vampirism, and major areas of the criminal network, and the apparent abuse, torture, blood, and murder of babies and children. They also connect to the Children's Hospital charity that had been incorporated in 1978, and its name last changed in August 2004 and September 2008. The other thing that's important to remember earlier I said, wow, that's now going to be relevant. So the earthquake happened, as we know, the big tsunami in 2004. Well, Charles went to Iran for a meeting in 2004 as well. It was the first time since 1971 that a British monarch had visited Iran. And during that visit, it was an informal visit, he went and visited the location of a big earthquake that had occurred in Iran that year. Now, it's probably, obviously, now it was Iran, so I presume that earthquake in 2004 is going to be the same one. I don't know, I need to check that. I don't think it is. I think it's another one. I think he went there earlier in the year, but I'm going to check that, because if it's the same one, obviously it's becoming even more significant now. That's going to be even more significant, isn't it? Because he is massively linked into the earthquake technology. Stevens also connects to Chamber of Commerce Barnsley and Rotherham Limited that had been incorporated on the 5th of July 2000, less than a month after the Relativistic Heavy Ion Collider was first activated, before its name was changed for the first time on the 13th of August 2007, 10 days before Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited was incorporated. It has a Genesis address, which relates to Scripture. It also has Lupton Fawcett of a Leeds address on its incorporation document, linking into the fraud. Fawcett, I believe, will link to Dame Judy Fawcett, is it? Who links to the research of the I'm shouting, aren't I? I need to quiet down. Who links to the research of the Jewish Community Centre UK, which links to Ghislaine Maxwell immediately, back to the Royals and to Gerald McCann, and into massive areas of the fraud, with only one of its directors having an address in Geneva in Switzerland, all of the rest having an address in London. And that person then makes the link to the Virgin Foundation, which then links to the Pizzagate scandal, with Virgin Management on the incorporation document linking with Hillary Clinton, which also then links in with Sonia Poulton, who was the independent journalist that supposedly was trying to identify what was happening with Madeleine McCann, who refused to assist me in exposing the international government fraud, then dissolved one of her key companies, and then went and colluded with Anthony Roberts and other people, including Reynald Wilson, in a live stream, or they actually colluded before, but Reynald Wilson and Anthony Roberts were colluding together. Reynald Wilson then connects to the blood of the children, to the also to the cell towers immediately, and the vaccine companies, and he was using an alias name. Now, all of this, I think, a lot of this is people giving me this information. So I think you've got, some of this was laid up for me to find it. So what I can only assume is that you've got people within the system that have infiltrated the crimes against the children had to make it look as though they were part of it, knowing who I may be in this, to then give me some of the information to end up exposing it for whatever reason. Now, I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means I'm going to prevent a catastrophic event on Earth and a falsified tribulation. I don't know if I'm going to trigger a tribulation event. I mean, if I am who some of them seem to be thinking I am, then that obviously changes scripture. So if, for example, the scripture says there will be earthquakes, tsunamis, and a tribulation event, then that would mean that never has to happen. It means the whole thing changes. It means the whole fate of the earth completely changes through who I could be. Now, there's obviously people in the system that believe I'm that person. Now, by facilitating me, now some of it is facilitated. There's no doubt in my mind. There's some people have given me information, even though they're connected to key parts of the international government fraud and the apparent crimes against the children. They've given me information to assist me. Now, by doing that, they've exposed themselves. So therefore, I can only assume that they've infiltrated the evil side of this system, knowing something about me, that I will be somebody that will change the course of events and somehow, change whatever is happening in this. But I don't know whether I'm leading. I mean, in theory, that is the case, isn't it? In theory, the scripture becomes irrelevant in relation to a tribulation event on earth if I'm someone that people think I am in this. So it possibly changes everything, but I don't know what it means is going to happen. I don't know if that means, because obviously their entire system is exposed, and that means you've got people being identified as being accountable to this criminal system, you see. So there's going to have to be some sort of consequences. Now, I don't believe I'm going to have all of this evidence for the whole world to end and to, all of, humanity and creation to end. I just don't see why that would be the case. It just wouldn't make sense to me for that to be the case. But, at the moment, I need to keep pushing. I need to keep exposing. I need to keep presuming the threats are real. Because if I don't, then I might not actually do the right thing to save the children, or end up doing the right thing, shall we say, to save the children and save creation and all of this. Anyway, page 18 of the incorporation document shows various companies, including British security industry. So this is on that incorporation document. This is very significant, what I'm about to tell you. So this is coming in, just to recap, from Earthquake UK. Okay, so from Earthquake UK, you've got a practical, immediate connection, because this is all, although it's a lot of information, it's all within the same companies. Okay, so this connection is to British Security Industry Association Limited. That is shown in the research of the death of Jill Dando, and links to the Devers again, the Vatican, and major areas of the criminal network, to the Leveson phone hacking scandal and major areas of the international criminal network, and to the death of Daniel Morgan, which means it links back into the Jimmy Savile's building, which is linked to Exwell Manor again. Also connects to the research of serial killer Peter Sutcliffe, and the research of the satanic panic, where over 300 people were claiming that they had been sexually abused in a school in America, as shown elsewhere. Now, I've also got another connection, which I haven't added to that, which it seems to be linking into, where do I come in from? Oh yeah, that is from the satanic panic, yeah, which links to right to where my father-in-law lives, right near it. We have Chamber of Commerce are centralised to the criminal network, because there was a Chamber of Commerce company there. Stevens also connects to Barnsley Youth Zone Limited, and Youth Zone companies connect to important areas of the criminal network, including one of the former heads of the Serious Fraud Office, elsewhere in my document. Referring back to Earthquake UK Limited, Sean Kavanagh was appointed for 2 days and connects to 322 companies. including Morrison Foods Limited, Northern Ireland, in brackets NI, Limited, Barrack Homes, Olympic Sales, Northern Ireland. Remember, I've told you about the Olympic Games companies, which was incorporated in 2005 and dissolved in September 2025, and has 21st Century Fox, among other companies, on its incorporation document, and a link to Parallel Film and Television Productions Limited that have been incorporated in September 2004. Now, this is interesting. Jeremy Simon Fox connects Parallel Films and Television Productions to 48 companies, including DRG America, that have been incorporated in April 2008, which is the month after the Ninth Circle came out. March, April, yeah. The Ninth Circle movie came out, which links to the control panel of CERN, and it dissolved in March 2026 as the exposure continued. It has at UK PLC on its incorporation document, making immediate connections to Expool Manor Freehold Limited, where my investigations began, by Property Solutions Southern Limited, a company connected to it, and making major connections to the criminal network, the Church of Satan, and apparent crimes against children elsewhere. Victoria Jane Turton connects DRG America to 334 companies, including Dinosaur Productions Limited and Invasion Pictures Limited, okay? That, although not entered into the document yet, have previously been secured in evidence being connected to the research of Derren Brown and the Apocalypse Deception, making major connections to the criminal network, the police, and democratic organizations. And that's in relation to him doing an apocalypse show in 2012 where an asteroid was hitting the Earth, and that asteroid was called Swift. And Swift is the name of the international transaction system that they used in the international government fraud, and Swift appears to be linking now with Taylor Swift being used as a double agendaed identity, also playing Xena, or it being a twin, but I suspect they're going to be the same people. Xena is the daughter of the original founder of the Church of Satan. So that's via Derren Brown. That connects into Derren Brown. So let me reiterate how important this is, because you've got Dinosaur Productions. There's loads of them. There's hundreds of production companies. You've got Dinosaur 2. You've got Invasion. Yeah, as in fake invasion. You've got, I think there's an asteroid, which I don't think the dinosaurs were ever real. All right, I'm fairly certain that's going to be the case. I don't think an asteroid ever hit Earth. I think I've got evidence that the people that are claiming there's craters are linked to the international criminal network and the deception. So what this does, you see, is create a fear and gives them the ability of control through the threat of asteroids hitting the Earth. Okay, so it enables through that deception, and also, of course, what they can do is then tie that in with the fake space exploration to defraud the masses through that space exploration, to say that they need to investigate asteroids or look into it because of the risk of asteroids hitting Earth. I strongly suspect that an asteroid has never hit the Earth, because I believe the creator genuinely would not allow that, and I think they're behind most of the world's disasters, creating it, because what it also does is separate you from the creator, because what you then do is, you'll be thinking, why would a creator do this? Why would a creator do that? What if they're not doing any of it? What if it's these people that are trying to separate you from the creator through their evil agenda? Remember, everything else is an inversion. They're behind the agenda surrounding transgenderism. The inversion we're talking about with the point of singularity in the black hole, opposite of creation. The inversion of the charities, all being set up to actually launder money in relation to the problems that the charities are there to supposedly help. It's a complete inversion, everybody. All of the Save the Children being involved in the crimes against children. UNICEF being supposedly set up to help children in times of international conflict. Set up, it seems, to actually target the children in times of conflict. All an inversion, all a deception, according to all of the research. I would be very mindful of anyone not exposing the company's house fraud, everybody. I would literally not trust anything else you're hearing from anyone else unless they are talking about the company's house fraud. All right, it really is that important. Otherwise, you could be being directed in the wrong direction. The patents are key to the corporation, someone's put. The Epstein file dumps shows Epstein decided which sciences and which patents lived and died, controlling so much. Yep. We've got to remember, they are giving us that information. The people linked to the satanic cults, obviously they're using him as a scapegoat and to minimize and simplify a much complicated, much bigger deception against all of humanity. They are giving us that information, so we need to be very, very cautious about the information. Now, I think what's happened is they're realizing they've had to give something, and they've had to scapegoat somebody, and they've had to funnel the information away from the real truth in all of this. So that could be the idea of the Jeffrey Epstein files, is to scapegoat one person mainly and a few others around them, and actually channel it away, because they're not talking about the falsified prophecies, are they? They're not talking about the fraud. They're not talking about the vampirism. They're not talking about all of these big topics, the collider. Nobody's mentioning that. They've kept that, as far as I'm aware, they're not talking about the main topics. So it enables them to channel it away. And of course, it makes you think that something's being done. So therefore, you sit back, you're thinking, oh, they're obviously doing something because they're telling us something. But they're not telling you the real truth. Control. Victoria Jane Turton. Oh, we've got that. I've done that already. I suspect DRG, this company, could refer to the Democratic German Republic. The movie The Impossible was released. This blew me away. I found this out today. The movie The Impossible, which was about the tsunami, was released on the 21st of December 2012 in the United States. This is the day that the Mayan calendar ended. You couldn't write it. Now, that's also the day that Disney acquired Star Wars. The Impossible is a 2012 movie, biographical disaster, film directed by J.A. Bayona about the tsunami. It's got Ewan McGregor in it. Well, J.A. is Juan Antonio Garcia Bayona, born in 1975, Spanish filmmaker. He directed the 2007 horror movie, The Orphanage. 2007 is the same year as Madeleine McCann went missing, and the same year that the Expo Manor was incorporated, when I was introduced to my wife and the organisation. The Impossible, 2016 fantasy drama, A Monster Calls, interesting, same year as Pizzagate scandal. 2018 movie Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, interesting, scripturally related. He also directed the first 2 episodes of Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. Remember, if you've been listening to my evidence about my ring, you may not have heard of it. It links straight to Rome, and it makes the Lord of the Rings creator, the one that wrote the books, J.R.R. Tolkien, lived and died in Bournemouth, where my investigation began. He moved down there when his wife retired, I believe. He used to stay at the Miramar Hotel from the 1950s until 1972. Staying there as a regular customer. 1972 is when Jimmy Savile bought the property right by it, which links to Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited. When I was conducting my inquiries at Exbourne Manor, one of the directors, called Alan May, claimed to own a flat in the building where Jimmy Savile owned a property, which I didn't know at that time. So did one of the other directors, Marcia Lynch. During my earlier inquiries, they took me into the building, into what she claimed was her flat. I'm 95% sure it was Jimmy Savile's flat that they took me into, trying to get me to make that connection potentially. Now, when I was doing my inquiries, Alan May had connections to the Miramar Hotel where J.R.R. Tolkien used to stay. And he arranged a meeting for us to go there. I didn't know that at this time. I had no idea it was connected to J.R.R. Tolkien. Turned out that's where he was staying. That's where he used to stay a lot. Now, J.R.R. Tolkien, the books first came out. Guess when they came out? 1954. The same year that CERN was founded. Okay, this year after the Queen was coronated. It's also the same year that the Silent Weapons of Quiet Wars document came out, which I've got, which goes into a lot of detail about their apparent agenda against all of humanity, mocking us for not actually taking the life of animals, but eating them. A complete mockery. And you can only really judge anyone for eating any other animal if you're going to not eat animals yourself. You know, I believe morally that's the only. The books came out in 1954. It was between 1954 and 1955. The three books. The first movie came out in 2001. It was called The Fellowship of the Ring. The second movie came out in 2002, the year after the World Trade Center disaster, and it was called The Two Towers. It's unbelievable. The third movie came out, I think it was 2003 or 2004, The Return of the King. I've got a feeling it might be 2004, which then ties in to the earthquake, the tsunami, and the information I've just been telling you about with the tsunami. So my ring connects to the Vatican immediately via it links straight to the intelligence agencies by 3 connections, and the M is the 13th letter, which is on my ring, which is the middle of the alphabet, and the M is relevant to, what was it somebody said the other day? Oh, I've forgotten now how the M's relevant. But I know the 13 is relevant because it links to the Knights Templar with the original Grand Master apparently entrapped into a meeting in 1307 on the 13th, Friday the 13th in 1307. And he was then tortured for 7 days, according to the research. If it's real, I don't know. And then he was murdered on the 7th day before hiding the secret of the bloodline of Christ. Now, the 13 becomes relevant because 13 on the flag, where apparently the bloodline was taken to America at some point, and through the Knights Templar, and the skull and crossbones suggest there's information to suggest that they were using that, one of the first groups of people to use it, that was representing, and again it's a cross, isn't it? Skull and crossbones, so the X again, bloodline of Christ. Oh, sorry, remains of Mary Magdalene, remains of Jesus. Okay, the hooked X, the hook representing the baby that they may have had. This ties into, like somebody said on here earlier, the Scion, the, what's it called? The priest in France that would refuse to leave the area where he was working, the parish, and even though the Vatican wanted to leave, they stopped paying him and he still continued to work there for nothing. And the story goes that he had found parchments in the building of that church which pertained to the hidden bloodline of Christ in relation to the Knights Templar. That's where the Da Vinci Code book and movies ended up being written from that information. The book came out in 2003 and the movie came out in 2006, and then it all becomes relevant. All of the other books and the movies become very relevant. They skipped a book with the movie, so they didn't make the lost symbol. They were going to make it in 2012, and they changed, their mind after CERN discovered the Higgs boson, a God particle, and said they're not going to make a movie of the lost symbol. They're going to make the Inferno movie instead and release that in I think it came out in August 2016, didn't it? I think it was the same month as the ritual took place at CERN, I think. Oh, no, it might be October. So they skipped the lost symbol. When you research the lost symbol, it goes straight to a company called the at symbol on Company's House. The at symbol is shown in documents going back a very long time to the 13th century, if not before, I think. And it was used for a symbol for amen, linking back in with scripturally. Now, there's loads of other research I've done around that. I can't remember it at the moment, but they skipped the lost symbol around the time of the God CERN supposedly creating the God particle. They then didn't make a movie of The Origin, which talks about the origin of the and a suggestion that they had identified that that humans evolved and that there was not a creator behind them. But I've done the research surrounding that, and that ties in with the books and ties into an experiment. I don't think I've got it on here at the moment. I'll say that another time, but that becomes mind-blowing, to be honest with you. I think that was a satanic infiltration, again, to separate us from the creator. So integrating this supposed experiment that might have proved that there was no creator, well, that's exactly what the satanic inversion of the creator would obviously put in place, right? To separate you from the creator, along with the asteroid strike, along with all of the other stuff, to separate you and create this inversion away from the creator, because that's what Satanism would be doing, and that appears to be what they're doing through the... I'm getting quite tired now, but I'll carry on. I have no idea what the time is. So the Impossible movie, we've got... so he was involved in the Lord of the Rings, and guess what? He was also involved in Penny Dreadful. And Penny Dreadful links to the creator of the Sweeney Todd, and they created the Sweeney Todd group on the Company's House Records that links into vampirism. And the Penny Dreadful also links into Varney the Vampire and the Fleming marrying a Lloyd, an Edward Lloyd, involved in the creation of the Sweeney Todd group and the, as I've said, the Varney the Vampire and the world's largest printing factory. Created by John Logan and originally released at Showtime, filmed in Dublin, the series tells the story of a group consisting of a rich man, a medium man, a gunman, and a young doctor, all looking for rich man's missing daughter. To do this, they must cope with strange beings and Victorian-era literary characters like Frankenstein, Dracula, and Dorian Gray. The series has a lot of its creator, according to Bayona. A search for Bayona on Company's House shows that Bayona Limited had been incorporated on the 13th of October 2011, just over 2 weeks before Jimmy Savile's apparent death, and it dissolved in September 2012, 2 months before the release of the Impossible movie that he was involved in. David Alexander Williams connects Bayona Limited to 10 companies, including Capital Shipbroking Limited, that had been incorporated on the 16th of October 2007, less than 2 months after Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited. It dissolved in May 2023 as I exposed the fraud, and links immediately to the fraud by 30 Finsbury Square, London, as its registered address, and it had been a criminal company, having been incorporated with the same companies as Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, where my investigation began. Remember, we're talking about the creator or the director of the Impossible movie that came out on the exact same day as the end of the Mayan calendar in 2012 in America. Now, the Mayan calendar connection is very important because when I moved from Kent to Dorset, they not only released the Ninth Circle, the Da Vinci Code, they released the Apocalypso movie, which was a Mel Gibson movie, and Apocalypso is set in the Mayan period. Now, Mel Gibson also did the resurrection, or the Christ, what was the name of, I can't remember, but the story of Christ on the cross, And he's bringing out another movie in 2027 in 2 parts, which is about the resurrection of the Christ. Not resurrection of Christ, of the Christ. This suggests they're aware of a deception within Christianity, and this film is going to represent the Christ. Like there's a different Christ than the Christ. Otherwise, you'd say Christ, wouldn't you? Resurrection of Christ. They're not. They're saying resurrection of the Christ. That suggests they're aware of a deception within Christianity, and they're going to actually potentially know that there's some sort of disclosure coming in relation to it. Half reading whilst listening to Gary. Sorry. Right. I've got so much evidence. I still haven't even done. I want to go through all of the evidence of the Da Vinci Code again. I want to go through the evidence of Crowley, because that is massively important as well. But I think I've just got to start with the priority, which is the risk through the collider technology. Olivia Bagay connects Capital Shipbroking Limited to Southwest One Limited, that had been incorporated on the 18th of September 2007, less than a month after Export Manor Freehold Limited, and it dissolved in December 2024 as the exposure continued, as an address of Interpath, 10 Fleet Street, London, connected immediately to the criminal network. It had been incorporated with the same company as Export Manor Freehold Limited. The filing history shows various address changes from October 2021. I moved back into the building that year, including on the 4th of onwards, from October on the 4th of July 2022, 4 days before I approached Anthony Roberts of Export Manor Freehold Limited. This includes an address of Canada Square, linking to major areas of the criminal network and apparent criminal network and apparent crimes against children. Although not shown in the document, evidence has been secured connecting Southwest One, this company, to Drew Mellor, who had resigned as the head of Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole Council after allegations of misusing council tax, as I made initial inquiries at Export Manor Freehold Limited, where he was the leader of the council. Ian Duncan Ferguson connects Southwest One Limited to 60 companies, including various IBM companies that are part of the fraud and facilitating the crimes against children, and he also connects to various algorithm companies as well. Just quickly, whilst I'm on here, another subject, the ninth circle, Pluto, the planet, supposedly was a planet. It was discovered in 1930 by Clyde W. Tombaugh, making it the first known object in the Kuiper Belt. It was immediately hailed as the main planet. However, its planetary status was questioned when it was found to be much smaller than expected. These doubts increased following the discovery of the additional objects in the Kuiper Belt starting in the 1990s, particularly the more massive scattered disk object Eris in 2005. In 2006, the International Astronomical Union formally redefined the term planet to exclude dwarf planets as Pluto. Many planetary astronomers, however, continue to consider Pluto other dwarf planets to be planets. Now, 2006 again is the year that I moved from Kent to Dorset, and it links to the ninth circle, okay, which links to the control panel again via my dream, the ninth circle, ninth planet. Okay, so they declassified it in 2006, the same year that the Da Vinci Code movie came out, Devil Wears Prada, and Apocalypso, linking to the Mayang side of things. 2030 would be 100 years since Pluto's discovery, and 2006, as I've said. On the 30th of April 2026, an article mentions Pluto possibly being given back its status of a planet. This was literally very recently, as I was exposing the fraud. Just a bit of research I've done now in... So the founder of the Church of Satan, he was operating from a location called the Black House in America. And in 2001, after his death in 1997, his followers were trying to get that house saved, but it ended up being demolished. I think it was the same month. Yeah, it was A month to the day, it was on the 17th of October. So a month to the day after they repealed the Genocide Act, which was 6 days after the World Trade Center disaster, and they demolished the Black House. Well, Company's House, when you search Black House, you're not going to believe this. Well, you are. The Black House was a building, I'll just read this, formerly stood at California Street in San Francisco, California in the United States. The house was used by Anton LaVey as the headquarters for the Church of Satan from 1966, which was the foundation of the Church of Satan until 1997. That's when the World Trade Center started to be built in 1966. It was completed in 1973. 1973 is when the SWIFT International Transaction System started to be used in the fraud, and that's also when Soylent Green, the movie, was released, which appears to be relating to me, about an innocent police officer in 2022, even though I hadn't been born at that point, uncovering a dystopian future. The movie was based on a book from 1966, which is, as we know, was the foundation of the Church of Satan, and the book was based in the year 1999, which is the re-establishment of the Church of Satan after the death of its original founder. So this house was demolished. Company's House shows a company, and it was going through Google. I literally put the Black House, Company's House, through Google, and the Black House Limited was incorporated on the 14th of September 2000, almost a year to the day before the World Trade Center disaster. Okay, and that is almost a year to the day, just under. It was the month afterwards that the house was demolished in America, and that is obviously not long after the relativistic heavy ion collider was activated in New York. The company dissolved in February 2024. So it was created in 2000, dissolved in 2024, as I continued the exposure. And it has a registered address of 3 Bargates, Christchurch in Dorset, the town where I lived and worked in the police. The same town where Jeff Bezos connects immediately to from the research of the prophecy of the popes and a meeting that links to the 3i Atlas comet. It has Keith Cahan of 788 790 Finchley Road on its incorporation document, along with A1 Company Services. Links immediately to Carter and Coley, the accountant for Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, and the research of Pornhub and major areas of the criminal network. The filing history shows that it has a registered address of 4 Cedar Park, Cobham Road, Wimborne, on the 18th of September 2014. That's the same town that Deborah Fleming was living in, who initiated my removal, and also the founder of the CERN. Sorry, the founder of the World Wide Web, created for CERN. Kestrel Trevor Quinton Hawkins, interesting, 1 letter short of Hawking, Stephen, connects to the Black House Limited to KH Carpentry and Building Services Limited. It was incorporated in 2012, and it has a registered address of 10 Bridge Street, Christchurch, linking immediately to my wife's former school, to my former inspector in Christchurch, Lance Cliff, and our positioned tenant in the house, Steve Price, and to Osmsley Management Limited, linking to the Craze, the Russian government, Alistair Crowley, straight back to Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited again, as shown elsewhere. Barbara Khan is in the People Record. Winnington House, 2 Woodbury Road, North Finchley, is on the incorporation document, linking to QAnon, P. Diddy, Carter and Coley, again, and apparent references to me, to the QAnon company, and again to the accountant of Exbourne Manor. Michael John Whitley connects the Black House Limited to Haven Builders Southern Limited. Haven Builders Southern Limited. That have been incorporated in 2000. It has Kemp House of 150 to 152 City Road, London, on its incorporation document, and makes major connections to the criminal network, including to the World Trade Center disaster research. UK Secretaries Limited is in the People Record and connects Haven Builders to 2,114 companies. And randomly selected SPS Maintenance Limited had been incorporated in October 2007 and is shown as in liquidation. And it has Forvis Mazars on its registered address, making the link to the Albert Pike letter, to the earthquake company linked to Italy, Donald Trump, Jimmy Savile, the Royals, and much more as shown elsewhere. I'm going to leave it at that, everyone. It's quite late. What time is it? Oh my goodness, 4 in the morning. Yeah, thanks very much. I'm really sorry I haven't answered any questions. I'll just have a quick skip through, see if there's anything there that I need to answer. Templars, Knights Templar, yeah. Lied about the timeline. History is 6,000 years, not millions, etc. Yeah, I've heard this. Yeah, that the Earth may not be as old as we're told. Myla's cheap. Ishmael Perez has said Mylar inside a hat stops it. Welcome to the post-disclosure world. Christ is light and we are light. Someone's put. I think I've hopefully read everything. Thanks so much. Get some good sleep. Yeah, I will. Thanks very much, XX. No worries. Sorry, I could have done better tonight. I'm quite tired, but trying my best. I'm just staring at my screen all, well, most days. Sometimes I'm having a little break, but it's pretty mind blowing what I'm finding. So, thank you so much for listening. Just having a quick look. See if there's anything else. There's loads more evidence I wanted to say, but I can't get enough. There's so much I need to get out there. It's just, I mean, it's probably 200 and I want to say about 2,000, sorry, 200 pages at least, I would think, the document now. I think it's probably getting on 2,500 pages, I think. And it's just, yeah, I've got loads of things I want to research, but, you know, I'm hoping that just by the disclosure, it changes things. You know, it might be that just the disclosure changes everything. You know, it's possible. They've made me think that could be the chance. But I've still got to be trying to get people to follow the strategy, because, you know, if I don't keep pushing, and we don't see some sort of practical things happening, there's a chance that they're going to potentially get out of this somehow. Now they're in a very difficult predicament. Even if they would, I'd be very interested to hear what their explanation is, which one day, you know, hopefully we'll get to hear what their explanation is for what they've been doing. I mean, it looks like to me, what it looks like is definitely the Christian network is a massive part of this. But I mean, all of the faith groups are infiltrated with the blood of the children, according to the research. Now, if they've really been harming children and taking children's lives, then the blood element there is there to that. Now, the blood element, I mean, they're telling us that it's to do with potentially the extension of life. There's even articles suggesting that they can almost create immortality through the changing of the blood and the organs. So that then gives a motive, doesn't it? Now, that means they're scared of death. Now, that means they haven't got a faith, if that's the case. Which means, you know, why would they consider ending creation? Now, it could be that you've got different groups within this. So you might have some group that was heading towards the falsified prophecies. And to what I mean by falsified prophecies is for man to create the prophecies rather than the creator, and create a tribulation event and the judgment upon man. Well, that's not the creator, is it, first of all? And they're not the creator. They may believe they're the creator. And some people are trying to get me to believe that actually I should be thinking within us, we are the gods. Well, no, that doesn't make sense, because you've still got, who's the creator? You know, we can't say we're the gods, because then you still got the question of who's the creator, haven't you? And it's a very dangerous, I think, thought process to believe that we are the gods, because we make mistakes. You know, we get things wrong. We are tempted by sin. You know, we eventually our bodies do fail, whether it's because of them creating it or over time. And of course, we're then going to get things wrong. So we have to separate, I believe, have that thought process of a creator outside of us. That's not to say we are not integrated somehow through the conscience, which I believe, you know, the moral conscience came into us for some reason, didn't it? Love thy neighbor, treat everyone how you want to be treated. Now that's instilled in more people than others, but I believe that's the rationality and clarity of those people that maintains that above others that have lost their rationality or have sometimes lose that rationality and therefore separates that moral conscience. So, and to me, it just makes so much sense to think, okay, I have something to direct my gratitude, somewhere to direct my gratitude for the amazing things in nature. You know, it's great to actually direct your gratitude towards the wonderful things in this life that aren't created by man. Who do you direct that to if you don't believe in a creator? You can't direct it, and therefore you're not going to value it. But also then that helps me in my own mind nurture nature and, you know, really nurture it and value it, and actually feel that if I don't value it, then there's potential consequences to me if I don't look after nature, because it was done by the creator. It's like if I was to create anything, a wooden bike, and I gave that wooden bike to somebody thinking, oh, you know, they're going to love that and they're going to really value it. And then suddenly they disregard it and smash it up. You know, as a creator, I'm going to be very upset about that, aren't I? And, you know, most people in a rational state of mind will know that that will upset the creator. So on a different scale, you have that. But it then creates the protection of humanity, doesn't it? Because if I want to please the creator, but in doing so it pleases me because I'm walking that line of moral conscience, then everyone's a winner. Everyone is protected from me because I am worried about, okay, well, if I slip out of side of what I know to be right, then, okay, even if no one's around, I know there could be a consequence because I believe there's a creator. So that then therefore protects me from my guilt of slipping out of doing what I know to be wrong, all right? Because that creates guilt, so it protects me because I don't have that guilt, plus others don't get affected by me, and that works both ways, you see. Now, it's not about control, because through that narrow path, and I found this over the last 4 years, you literally feel so empowered. You feel so empowered in having that connection with the creator. You don't feel as though you're losing anything. You can still live your life. You just have to think what you're doing, whether it's right and wrong, and you can judge that by what you would want done to you. It's been given to us, that ability. Would I like that said to me? No. Okay, then I won't say it. Would I like this done to me? No, I wouldn't. So I won't do it. So it's literally this protection through the creator. It's not control, it's protection. And through that protection, incredible empowerment. I mean, when I look at what I've been through over the last 4 years, there is absolutely no way I could have done it if I did not have that connection through that moral conscience. No way. Most people would have crumbled and collapsed and not be able to function because of they might have slipped into the irrationality. Very fortunately, through my life, I've managed to maintain, you know, I don't drink much, I don't take drugs, I love nature anyway, I like keeping active, and generally I've always been fairly, you know, I have slipped, of course I have, I've done things wrong, but certainly over the last 4 years through this journey and going through my challenges, I've just got stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger, and I'm just so empowered, even though I'm living in a tent and I don't know if I'm going to live one day to the next, and I don't know where I'm going to be in 2 years. I don't, you know, they're stealing all of my money, or most of my money's gone. They've stolen half of my property with my wife, but I still feel incredibly fortunate, and I feel incredibly sorry for these people. You know, these people have given up the most important thing ever, which is your moral conscience. That's probably the most important thing personally to an individual. Obviously, you have children and they're a priority, but on a personal side of things, to maintain that, morals is just so important, and I've just learned that even more over the last few years, you know, and It's been very challenging, very challenging. It's not easy being by yourself all the time, but I still know that it's necessary, and I know that it's a sacrifice I have to make, and I know living in a tent is a bit of a sacrifice I have to make, and I know that the risk to my life is a sacrifice I have to make, and I know all of these things I'm doing, it's a necessity because it's the only right thing. Now, I have to be willing to lose everything when I believe there's a chance, even the slightest chance, that there's hundreds of children, if not thousands, if not millions of children being abused, murdered, tortured, and all, of course, if all of creation is at risk, then there is no option. I've got to be willing to sacrifice everything because there's everything at stake. Otherwise, there's no point in me just sitting back and doing nothing if there's a chance they're going to end up creating an end of world event. I can't take that chance. So I have to put everything into it. And by doing that, I'm, I believe, I hope, I pray I'm on the right course in all of this, which means I'm not scared of whatever comes. I'm not scared of even if they were going to, I don't want to die. Of course I don't. But if they end up creating a tribulation event, then obviously that's not what I want to happen. But then I'll just have to face that, and I'll face that consequence. And I believe the other side of that, I'll come out of it okay because I'm doing my best to stay on the right side. So I think it is so important to, and people say, well, why would a creator say that you have to believe in them to go somewhere better after life? Well, think about it like this. You have a choice. You have free will. So and I've said this a few times, if you get to a point where you don't have an answer to something, whether it be how we're able to even exist on Earth, okay, or how it was created or whatever, and scientists don't answer it, and you then have to make a choice, don't you? You either choose, well, there's this, and this, and this that could suggest that's a creator, and that's why we're surviving. Or you choose to say, well, no, I'd rather go with it's not a creator and it's just chance. So you're given that free choice, and you choose to say it's just chance. Whereas you could choose in your mind, like I have, and say, well, I believe there's design, I believe there's symmetry, I believe nature is amazing. I look at all of the variety, all of these different things, and I say, do you know what? I believe I believe there must be a creator. And I believe because of moral conscience and the amazing abilities that our body has, I don't see any other explanation for it personally, and particularly since the last 4 years as to how I am feeling about all of this. And of course, I think if you're someone that will continuously choose to disregard the creator, when you're given the opportunity to make that choice to believe or not, then ultimately you end up choosing potentially the biggest consequence of all. Now that's you choosing that. That's not them creating an ultimate, it's an ultimatum. It's through a choice, a selection that you make through life when you get to those sort of questions. And I think it is, and of course, because we're under a system that is deliberately trying to separate you from the creator, you've all been deceived. So you've all actually been led to look for a reason not to believe. That's because the system's set up around it because it's satanic. It's deliberately that way because of all of the things I've been telling you about. A complete inversion to separate you from the creator. It's obvious now. The whole thing has been set up. And this financial element motivates all of it, and the crimes against the children, the blood, the drug trafficking, the international conflicts, terrorism, all of the most awful things on earth. It's because of this. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, because if they don't have the problems, they can't continue their addictions. They can't continue their exploitation and victimization upon humanity. And therefore, what are they going to do? How are they going to continue their addictions? How are they going to, whether it's sex, drugs, or whatever? So we're at just the most incredible time. It's just the most amazing, unbelievably amazing time to be living, and by far the most important time since creation we're going through at the moment. And it's going to be very interesting to see where it ends. Very, very interesting indeed. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't have hope. And, it's people like yourself and me and others that are doing what's right that's keeping the hope alive. Because if we lose all hope, if everyone loses all hope, then it's pretty much over, isn't it? Because without hope and without optimism and perseverance, who's gonna keep that motivation and keep that chance of a new earth going? So, and I'm genuinely still very, very positive. Still, I wouldn't be saying it. I wouldn't be doing this, would I? Let's face it. If I really didn't think there was a way that this was going to end up well, I would literally. I mean, I've been saying every day I can't wait to go for a nice walk over that hill and get, make a picnic and go for a lovely day's hike and go and explore. I've been really looking forward to doing that, but I've got to prioritize this, and I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't think there was a chance this was going to be resolved. And I'm seeing signs through the evidence, that I'm having a massive impact on the entire Earth system. Now, I know full well if everyone was to get behind me and get behind this evidence and get behind my strategy, it would end so quickly. You will see a very, very quick turnaround into what you all need to happen. But I can't force people to do that. All I can do is try to persuade, give the evidence, ask people to verify it, check it, and follow that strategy. There's no point following a strategy that isn't based on the real evidence of what the real problem that's going on. And I can tell you 100%, this is it. It's obvious. It connects absolutely everything together, and it provides the motive for the continuation of the world's problems. If you don't remove the motive, then you're going to continue to have the problems. You will never resolve. If the crimes against the children are really going on, it's not going to stop unless you remove the system that motivates the crimes against the children. It's simple. Nobody's doing it, though. Nobody's doing it. Nobody's talking about it. Donald Trump's not coming out with it because he's massively part of it in every way. I've only just given you a small snippet of the connection to Donald Trump. But I am hanging on to the possibility that this whole thing has been set up for, as a massive test to humanity, and specifically, test to individuals potentially, and how they're going to deal with this. And I have no idea what I've got to do. If I'm really someone that some of them want me to believe, I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to do. I really don't know. Maybe that'll come to me one day, and I'll just suddenly have, a sudden change in me. Something will happen, and that'll be the day that, I can then create some sort of huge change even more. But yeah, it's incredible times, everyone. It really is. And just stay. It's very easy to be anxious and to be worried about this, and that's not what I'm here to do at all. And if I were just sitting here giving you the evidence and not giving you a solution, then of course I wouldn't be doing I wouldn't be doing the right thing. But what I'm doing is presenting a solution based on the problems I'm giving you the evidence about. So, it's a case of giving you a choice. Like I said a minute ago, you all have a choice to make, and that's the only right way it should be, is to be given that choice and hope that you make that right choice. And just pray that, everyone makes that right choice in all of this, which is to do something. To do something. Nobody should just be ignoring this. It's like seeing, I keep saying this, but this is the most simple way I can visualize it. If I was to see a young child about to run into a road, and I just stood there doing nothing, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? I'm destroying myself, destroying the child, destroying the hope in humanity, all at the same time. This is just the same, but on a bigger scale. So yeah, it's now we've got some interest in July, which is only a couple of months away. There's something going on with the St. Puy X, which is what the Vatican was setting up, which I'm fairly sure is going to be something to do with the bloodline of Christ. There's some sort of meeting or something going on in July this year, so we'll see. Interesting with the whole alien disclosure type thing, what they're doing. I had a quick look, and actually there was something interesting cropped up earlier about when they declassified some alien stuff. It was a key year. I can't remember now. It was when I was just looking through my research earlier and it came up. But anyway, be all night. Thanks very much, everyone. Take care of yourselves. If you're going to bed now, then thanks for staying up with me. Thanks for watching. If you're in another country, it's great to have you listening, and thank you so much. And I hope you have a really good day. I'd love to do my traveling again. I miss my traveling. Maybe one day I'll be able to travel a bit more again. Get another van or something, I don't know. But thank you so much, everyone. Take care, everyone. All the best. Bye-bye.